Megan, let me know. All right, Megan, we on?
Yep.
All right. I'd like to call to order the July 13th, 2022 Long Hill Township Committee meeting. Madam Clerk, do you want to read the statement?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting, specifically the time, date, and public call and information, were included in the meeting that was electronically sent to the Echo Sentinel and posted on the Township website. The agenda and public handouts for this meeting can be viewed online at www.longhillnj.gov. A public comment period will be held in the order it is listed on the meeting agenda.
Thank you. All right, let's start with the salute to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Committeeman Lavender,
Here.
Committeeman Ray,
Present.
Committeeman Verleza,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia,
Present.
Mayor Dorsey.
Here. All right, we have a presentation from Ms. Whitcomb from the Madison Environmental Commission. And I know it's under discussion, as we're gonna, right after that, I know Mr. Centimore's here, so we'll move Mr. Centimore's thing up to that. I will leave, and then you guys do what you have to, then we'll go back to the regular meeting after that. All right, Ms. Whitcomb. Ms. Whitcomb is the chair of the Madison Environmental Commission. So, I was told by the Deputy Mayor, you'd like to make a brief presentation. Go ahead.
Thank you very much for having me. It's real honor. I have when we started doing a lot of climate action, we started combining a lot of multi-town groups, and Terry Carruthers sent us your sustainability element, which was really a strong inspiration for many of us in our work. So I'm here about a forest on the Drew University campus, which wouldn't be your ordinary thing to be in Long Hill Township about. But the reason I'm here is because this isn't just an ordinary forest. It's, I'll show you a map that will maybe help you. Up in this, right, the red stuff, the big chunk of it is Drew University campus. It's on the Madison, Main Street on Madison. It's been there since 1867. There's a contiguous 53-acre corner of it. It's like an L-shaped area outlined in yellow, and that is the Drew Forest, and it has not been touched since before the property was purchased. It was purchased as an estate called the Forest in order to found a Methodist seminary. So it has some of the oldest trees in Morris County, and 22 acres have been fenced in from deer, and there's been a 14-year restoration where invasive plants have been removed, and so it has amazing amount of biodiversity. I invite you all to come for a walk. Friends of the Drew Forest will be happy to take you around. As 2 glacial ponds and deep dells, it's ancient glacial topography. But what it is an excellent wildlife corridor, and it's adjacent to many parks that have been preserved by Morris County. It has 22 acres of trails. It's open to the public. It's adjacent to the Geralda Farms Preserve, the Lalonica Brook Reservation, and of course the Great Swamp, which I drove through to get here, and it's just so shockingly beautiful. There's precedent for saving this kind of land with public money, and public funds do exist. Morris County has a large open space fund. Madison has an open space fund. So the next slide is simply just a little more close-up on where the forest. And as I said, it has walking trails. What happens when you have most forests, if you walk through them, it's called empty forest syndrome. The deer have grazed, the invasive plants have taken over, and there's no natives. So there's nothing coming up to keep these forests healthy. Well, this forest has had extensive replantings, and nature has done its thing, and it has a thriving understory of trees. I took Girl Scouts there, and they saw a snake, and they all screamed, and we got buzzed by a great blue heron. It's the kind of way that New Jersey used to be, and so therefore it has regional importance because of this restoration. The aquifer is the next thing to talk about, and Long Hill Township is entirely in the Buried Valley Aquifer Recharge Zone, so everything that happens here recharges the aquifer. And 4 towns, Madison, Chatham Borough, Florham Park, and East Hanover get their water exclusively from the aquifer. In whole, it supplies 30 towns. This has an economic value, the forest, the 53 acres of the forest, because they're so old and they're so rich, and the soil is full of leaf litter and microbes and things like that. It purifies 72 million gallons of rainfall annually, and the DEP has put an eco-service value on this at 1.5 million a year. Old forests, as we know, sequester the most amount of carbon. You can't replicate this just by planting individual trees. It's gone. Its value will be gone or dispersed. This photograph is after Hurricane Ida, and it shows you how much water the forest absorbed. That was considered a 500-year storm. 2 to 3 inches of rain fell an hour, and the forest really held it and contained it, so it doesn't run off into the stormwater system. It doesn't. It's contained and filtered back down to the aquifer. So this is a map. The light blue section of this upper New Jersey map is the Buried Valley Aquifer. It's quite extensive. It goes under Morris, Essex, a little bit of Union, and a little bit of Somerset counties. Drew University itself, if this is purchased with conservation money, what will happen is Drew will get the money. And the goal is to have it be a market value sale so that this would regenerate Drew, and which is an important economic engine in New Jersey. And I live in Madison. I will tell you, the kids do not drink in Madison. They're all over the place. They're New Jersey kids, and a lot of them stay and live in the area afterwards. The Shakespeare Theater is there. I don't know if you've been, but I just went to the most recent show, and it was pretty sparsely attended, but very fabulous. The sports facilities are state-of-the-art and always bustling with life. So this conservation sale is a win-win solution, and 6 town councils have passed a resolution in favor of conserving the forest for public use. Madison was the first, Chatham Township the second, and Parsippany, Mars Township, Mars Town, and now we're presenting to you. All of the environmental commissions in those towns, that's where they began. They moved it onto their councils. Harding, in addition, Harding and Mendham Township environmental councils have passed a resolution. But the amount of environmental groups that have come out for this is really, we just keep being surprised by it. The Great Swamp just put out a very strong resolution. The Sierra Club of New Jersey passed a resolution. I don't know if you know a writer named Joan Maloof, who founded the Old Growth Forest Network. She's written some of my favorite forest books in the world. She called into a council meeting and wrote a letter to the president. So it's attracting a lot of attention. So the Buried Valley Aquifer, I actually didn't understand this for a long time, which being chair of the Environmental Commission is not a good thing. But basically, there's a lot of glacial valleys that got buried with rock and sand and gravel and debris. And you can see that they're all interconnected. And the one for Long Hill Township extends, it's the light green one, it extends down through Chatham Township. And these are the towns that get their water from the Buried Valley Aquifer. Some or all of it. I told you the exclusive ones that are dependent on the wells. And thank you. That's my presentation.
Thank you. So, while we have you, can Mr. Mayor, if
Be my
it's okay,
guest. If
just
anybody has any questions.
couple of questions, and also full disclosure. I served on the Morris County Open Space Committee, vice chair for a couple of years, for 4 years, and termed out. And I currently serve on the Great Swamp Watershed Association, the executive board, and I am its treasurer. I want the public to be aware of what my perspective perhaps is here. Two questions. Do we have an estimated value for its current zone value? And is the plan to apply to the county open space and to the Madison open space trust funds for purchase, if in fact that's the direction this goes?
That's where it gets complicated.
Well, maybe, to be fair, maybe that's not something we're going to resolve
Well,
here.
basically, the campus is zoned university. So in order to have any development, and Drew, quite frankly, is advocating for high-density housing.
We're not allowed to discuss
Okay.
this evening, so I'm just talking about it.
No,
from
so
its
it
value
hasn't,
as an
its
open space.
value depends on the density that is considered in rezoning, and that has not been resolved.
Understood.
Did you ask a second question?
Well, they're all tied together. Well, how about this? I'll ask hypothetical. Would the plan be, depending on how this progresses, to apply to the Morris County Open Space Trust Fund and to Madison? Madison would have to chip in.
Madison, it raised its open space tax with that in mind.
Understood. That answers my question.
Green Acres funding is available.
Yep.
The town is pursuing various avenues.
Thank you. I wanted to just make sure we were on the same page here. So perhaps in the future, I will probably introduce the idea that maybe we could pass a resolution in support of it. Obviously, clearly, I am in support of a resolution for the purchase of the Drew Forest. But that's for another meeting.
Any other questions for Ms. Whitcomb? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Whitcomb.
Well,
Good luck.
thank you for your time. I think that the more that towns can connect with each other, whatever decision you make is your decision, but the more we sort of share information and understand the impacts we commonly face with the environment and climate change, the better we'll all be. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, as we discussed, the next order of business, Mr. Centimore has an application. Mr. Centimore's consulted my law firm for legal issues in the past, so I'm recusing myself from it. So, Guy, your meeting, let me know when you guys are ready. When you're done with this topic.
Fair enough.
Thank
Are we just going to discuss it here? Jack, how are we doing this?
Yes, we're just gonna discuss it.
So
you-
Bob's not going to present?
it's up to you. You can invite him up to,
Perhaps, Bob, would you come up and at least explain, so the committee is aware and the public's aware of what it is that we're discussing? And thank you. Good to see you.
You too. So I was become aware that the township has an ordinance for safety reasons for a shooting range. So I applied for the town for an application to cohere with the ordinance for shooting on my property. I did have Chief Naga and Range Master Neuschwinder come out and inspect, and they both wrote me letters approving the safety situation at my house.
Thank you. Jack, could you explain for the committee and for the public exactly how something of this nature would receive approval?
let me just call up the ordinance. Give me 1 second, sorry. Should have had it up.
All right, well, I mean, Bob, thank you. So the idea is, first, I want to make sure we're all on the same page as to exactly how this process plays out, what is or is not allowed by state law. And the township ordinance would, of course, comply with that, but, and then what happens from that point forward.
Give me 1 second.
Is it the internet connection now?
Yeah, it's slow. Moving, there we go.
Okay.
God bless you.
Bless you.
Sorry, it's moving very slowly.
Have we been having problems here in?
Are you on
You know,
public?
I'm not sure which one I'm on. Yeah, I may be,
If you're on public, it should be okay. I'm on public.
not sure. Been on various ones.
Because I must admit, I'm unclear as to where the
I have a copy of the
authority is.
ordinance if you want
I
it.
have it.
Okay.
I have it, thanks. So basically, the township ordinance provides that if you can't discharge firearms in certain areas of the township, mainly the inner core, it does allow certain exemptions, one of which is for, oh, I'm sorry. The discharge of a firearm, crossbow, or other weapon or device capable of discharging projectiles by means of compressed air or spring tension in connection with the target behind which there exists a backstop or firing range, either natural or artificial, which has been approved by the Township Committee as hereinafter provided. The application requires that it be filed with the Township Clerk on a form provided with the clerk and provide information describing the firing range, target range, in such detail as to provide an adequate basis for judging its safety. The application shall be endorsed by the property owner. The application shall be forwarded to the township clerk, by the township clerk to the chief of police, who shall cause the range or target area in question to be inspected and shall report thereon to the township committee. So that's basically the contents of that. Now, there are certain state regulations which require that it be 450 feet from a residence, you can't cross the street, that sort of thing. So at this point in time, the application has been filed and the chief of police has submitted a report. So it's up to the township committee to determine on safety grounds whether or not it should be permitted. I think you can impose conditions if you do decide to grant permission to have the firing range.
But, okay, but the safety, whether it's designed in such a way as to comply with all safety regulations, we do receive that recommendation from the police department.
Correct.
But as far as whether does the township committee then have the authority, regardless, to say whether it belongs in that location or not? Or in this case, as long as it complies with all state guidelines?
If it's approved by the police chief, then you would have to have good reason to deny it.
Okay, but hours of operation,
I think you can
type of firearm?
I think hours of operation you could certainly set regardless of the police chief's recommendation, because that's outside his purview.
Okay. I think maybe Scott,
Yeah, I had a couple of questions. So I read the report, and it looked like the nearest residence was like 4,800 feet.
Yes. Yep.
Beyond that. Sounds like you raised the berm from 8 feet to 12 feet,
Going to, yes.
going to. So that's important. Were you planning on putting any side berms on?
I was told to put side berms on it as well,
And how
as
far
a
will those-
recommendation.
How far will those extend out? Is it gonna be like a rectangle or trapezoid, or
No, it'll be like almost like a U.
more like a U?
Yeah.
And the firing position that you're going to have, you're gonna do sort of like a wooden structure with limits for the
I
guns?
have a table,
You have a table, and then
Yeah.
you have posts for limits as
Yeah.
far as...
but we also skeet shoot and handgun shoot.
Yeah, so the skeet shooting, I was interested, so that's strictly shotgun though, right?
Correct.
And shotgun's gonna go maybe 200 yards
Max.
max,
Yeah.
right? And it's gonna be ineffective after probably 75 yards.
Exactly.
Right. And the skeet shooting, is that gonna go up above the berm?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the skeets are launched up into the air.
Right, okay, all right. But again, the range of a shotgun is minimal, right? It's gonna disperse. And so, just to circle back to the platform, if we kind of look at this berm and then the U that comes back, are the side berms perpendicular, I'd say, to the platform?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. So that would provide noise mitigation as well, because you've got these berms.
Yeah, and where the table is situated, it's in between a shed and a garage.
Yeah.
So there is a buffer for noise as well.
Okay. And Have you talked to your neighbors? Are they cool with it?
I have talked to all my neighbors, just one has a problem with it.
Okay, and what's his problem?
The noise.
And is it related to like the time of day kind of thing?
No, he has a business down there, and he says it's affecting his customers.
Okay. And are you guys working something out, an understanding of not doing it?
We did
during-
have an understanding,
Mhm.
and then I asked them to work with me and give me one day. It was a holiday,
Mhm.
and they said no.
Okay, so there's a little bit of work to do there.
Yeah, but all my other neighbors, I called them, and they even said, "Why are you even calling me? Like, we know you, we know you're safe.
Yep,
Do what you want."
yep. So then as far as containing the lead, obviously the berms are gonna contain pistol shots and
Yes.
rifle shots. And
Correct.
what gauge rifle? I mean, your 22s?
22 mags.
Okay. And I don't, do we need to talk to the swamp about buckshot? That I don't know.
The swamp, as in the Great Swamp
Yeah.
Watershed Association?
Yeah.
I don't know. They will opine, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah, have you reached out to them?
No, I haven't, but any lead, it will be contained in the berm. Any lead shot will be contained in the berm.
What about the skeet shoot? Is that lead?
That lead will not reach any Great Swamp property.
Oh.
There's
so-
11 acres of property there. I own 5.5. The estate I purchased it from owns the other 5.5. So shooting skeet, the shot will never reach the
Got it.
swamp property.
So how many feet beyond the top of the berm is still your property?
Oh, at least 200 to 300.
200 or 300? Okay. That's reasonable.
What,
Yeah.
what type of gun, I'm not a gun person,
Yeah.
so I'm going to ask silly questions or silly sounding questions. So skeet shooting, handguns, any, I guess what they would be called high-powered rifle or
Yes,
is that
we-
an
we-
AK-47?
Yeah, not AK, but we have ARs as well, yes.
Now, that range is significantly more.
Oh, yes, but we're shooting into the berm.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing that's not being shot into the berm would be skeet shooting.
And I deferred, obviously, to the chief of police
Yeah.
and his
Yeah.
team to decide what the proper height is, et cetera. I haven't the slightest idea.
Yeah, Sergeant Neuschwander gave me the state guidelines.
Fair enough.
For berm.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what is or is
Yeah.
not. So I defer to that report.
So the platform, is it going to have a roof over it that?
It does not have a roof over it. No.
And what about noise? Is there anything that can be done for noise reduction? Because I know when you shoot ARs, they are loud.
Yeah, usually we shoot them in the corner of the garage and shed area, which defers the sound. So one of my closest neighbors is Kenny Fulliger, and one day we were shooting, and he says, "I couldn't hear you shooting until I was actually physically outside my house." Inside of his house, he could not hear us shoot.
No, I thought, honestly, I thought I've heard you at my house.
You might have.
I live at
But-
Stephanie, and it was loud. Now, my concern would be for not only for myself, but
Stephanie
for
is
everybody.
off of Central, right? Over Central?
Yes. My concern would be for the noise reduction. What can you do?
I think
That's
I
reasonable.
think he mentioned that, though. You don't have the U-shaped berms coming out yet.
The berm is shooting into, correct?
So you have a straight berm here, but you're going to be putting wings on it. you said.
Yes.
Right.
So you're going to be,
The
and-
wings will act as a buffer that'll absorb sound.
but how would we know? And again, I'm not trying to be difficult,
No,
but
no.
how would we know, unless you had those berms up and shot, exactly how far and how loud that noise would be in surrounding neighborhoods?
Yeah, it depends how it carries. Like, I'm in the middle of the swamp. So if we're shooting out in the middle of the field, it would be much louder. That's why we kind of hide in the corner to help buffer the sound. So I'm conscious about my neighbors too. And I called all of them on Memorial Day, and they were all like, no problem.
God, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they were like, thank you for calling us out of respect, but they're like, we've known you, forever. We know you're safe. Do what you want to do.
Just one more question. The neighbour you said that you had the issue with,
Yes.
whatever. So, in the past, you've actually had good relations with
Oh,
with
for
that neighbour,
for many years, yes.
And even although they've had the business there for, I take it it's not a new business. It's been there for a while, and there's never been
We
an
had
issue.
we had an instance earlier where they called me and says the shooting is affecting our business, and I immediately shut it down.
Right.
And then I went over and spoke to them, and we did have an arrangement,
Mm-hmm.
and they said you can shoot when we close. So then Memorial Day came, and I asked them, I talked to all the neighbors, and I asked them, I says, work with me and give me one day, it's a holiday, we'd like to shoot. And he said no.
All right, but up until that time,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
His
respectful guy,
relationship.
I,
Yep.
you know,
okay.
If you were granted permission for one, who would be permitted to shoot there?
mainly myself and a few friends from town. Not a lot of people, and as far as frequency of shooting, maybe once a month.
I would be careful here because I think Committeeman Liza is looking for an invitation.
I think a lot of people in town are looking for an invitation.
To be
have to
clear, it
drive
would
the
not
whole
be a
bridge.
commercial operation. This is not
No,
something, a gun
definitely not a
club where you would
commercial operation.
charge.
No, no.
Where you would charge.
No, farthest thing from that, trust me.
Are there any periodic re-inspections according?
According to the ordinance, it says it's good for a year. As far as being renewed, I don't know if it has to be re-inspected. That I don't know, but I know that it's good for a year.
But those are things that you're going to
to
keep up with.
Yes,
and-
of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right, so in other words, if permission was granted and it's been a year and everybody's great with it, there's no incidences, then we can move forward with another year. But if there's God forbid, people are in an uproar and,
Of course.
you're not gonna wanna have that, we're not gonna wanna have that, then we could revisit it in a year.
And you could re-inspect the property.
I don't want to have that.
No, I know, I could tell.
Yeah. No,
To circle back what you said earlier, the understanding would be you would operate outside of the hours of the business in question? Which, let's be honest, it's the Great Swamp greenhouse.
Yeah, no. The agreement we had, they told me that I could shoot when they close. And I said, all right, well, when do you close? They're like 6 o'clock every night. And I said, that, kind of puts a damper on things, which I agreed to because I'm a respectful person. Then, like I said,
Yeah, forget the more,
I asked them for permission to give me one day.
That aside,
Yeah.
the understanding would be, because this committee does have, or is required to, put whatever condition it would choose. So we could say it would be, whatever the hours are,
Certain
would be
hours.
6 PM on, or
Right.
or something to that effect.
Yes.
So
And
you-
I
Right.
understand
Yeah.
the one issue was that day.
Yeah.
So you had been, I mean, it wasn't an imposition on you to abide by the stipulation that it's when they closed? It was something that you're okay with that? You were okay with it?
I was okay with it.
Right.
And like I said, I asked them to work with me for one day, and they didn't want to work with me.
Fair enough. I mean, I absolutely trust that that's what was said, but of course, at this point, the gentleman in question's not here to respond. And I absolutely trust that what you said is what happened, but
I mean, you could impose a condition after 6 PM, except for 1 or 2 days a month or whatever.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't want to shoot after 6 p.m. That's
Yeah,
when
that's-
everybody's home, and that's when everybody's,
but that's
relaxing.
the challenge
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out. If that's not going to work for you,
I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying you have discretion as well.
Right.
I can appreciate your point is I don't want to shoot after 6, but if the
then-
hours that we put are after 6,
Right.
it kind of defeats the point of what it is you're
And then,
trying to do.
what about
I don't want to
Saturday
shoot
and
after
Sunday?
6 out of respect for people being
I
home.
understand.
That's why. I mean, if you put that stipulation on me, then I have to shoot after 6.
But what about the weekends, like when everybody's out working or sitting by their pool or barbecuing and it's a concern.
Oh, of course.
I think this requires, a lot of thought, a lot of input here. I don't know if it's something that we can make a decision on tonight, in my opinion.
Right, I mean, well, I'll let you speak.
I mean, I think I could make a decision tonight. I'm prepared to do it. It seems like it's the range is in compliance, or it will shortly be in full compliance with the stipulations that have been made. And really, I guess the only thing that comes down that we would have to discuss tonight would be hours of operation. And I mean, considering we don't have another meeting until August, I think
What if we say yes, though, and then, and again, I'm not trying to be difficult, I'm a fellow gun owner, and I have to go all the way to Old Bridge. It's a pain.
Right.
But,
You want an invitation?
for sure, but what my fear is what if it's really loud, man? And we say yes, and it's Saturday, and everybody's sitting on their deck, and we're barbecuing, all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And then people are in an uproar. You know what I mean? Like, I would like to hear from,
If
you
that
make a
were-
wonderful presentation.
No, if that was the case, I'd be happy to work with you guys, the town, the people complaining, you know.
And I think we all certainly sense that. But I just, again, I feel as if this is kind of like a decision that I lie in the middle. I'm just being honest with you.
Right.
And I would
appreciate
love
it.
to have an invitation and be able to shoot in town.
Right.
But I'm struggling. Is it necessarily the best thing for the neighbors? Is it a fit?
But I think it is a bit. I mean, the neighbours from what we've heard tonight, the neighbours are all okay with it. One neighbour wasn't because it was a business day and it was a request that wasn't granted. Then it became an issue. How long have you been shooting there?
We've only shot twice.
But I mean, has it been years or?
Oh, no, I bought the house in 2018.
Okay,
We've only been shooting maybe not even a year.
Yeah, but it's a year. Now, there've been times there's been multiple times that you've been shooting there, right?
Yeah, but if I'm shooting myself or just sighting a gun in, it's a couple shots.
Right.
It's nothing, you know.
Yeah.
So I have a question, because I want to address the noise thing. I really like what you're talking about with the side berms, because I understand how that's going to absorb the sound.
Right.
And so I would assume that you're not going to get any complaints from the people in front of it or on the side of it. And for where Vic is, and I did drive by the property and I could see it from, and it was like, oh, okay, that's pretty good.
Right.
Therefore, and the Great Swamp is behind it, the U's going to be facing away. Obviously, they're going to get more of that noise. Have you thought about, from a good neighbor perspective, of putting some kind of noise mitigation back there, whether it be
I'd be happy to work with
baffled fence
yeah,
or
with
something?
anybody. My immediate neighbors that are the closest to me, that are most affected, are say no problem.
Even the ones right across the street?
Yep.
Now, are all the neighbors aware that we're having this meeting tonight? In other words, I believe what you're saying.
Right.
But were the neighbors notified? Are they aware that tonight we're discussing possibly approving this, and they're not here? Are they aware that they could be here to say yes or no, or give us their concerns? How would, or is this something that was just on the regular agenda, and we could say yes, and then all of a sudden have an outrage that people say, oh, we didn't know that it was.
I can honestly say the guy that facilitated this, I'm sure knows that this is being discussed tonight.
Well, I mean, I'm of agreement, and like I said, Bob, we've known each other a long time, and I
Right.
trust you completely. But I do think this is something that I would like to digest and give the public a chance to opine if they would like.
If they would like to, yes.
Now, Jack, is there, in the interim, can we give temporary approval?
That's what I was just going to suggest. Even though the ordinance says it would be through the end of this calendar year, I think you could give approval through the next meeting with the caveat that there'll be notice in the agenda that it's going to be acted on, and give anyone interested party the opportunity to appear if they wish. But that
But
way,
Bob,
since we don't-
in the meantime,
since we don't meet
Yeah.
till August, he wouldn't be denied.
I think that might be a fair.
That's very fair.
Thing tonight, because I know Vic would like to just give us time to, but
Right.
more so the public, time to digest it.
Right.
It gives you the opportunity to continue within whatever, within hours. I am challenged by the idea, 6 o'clock, and I'm thinking, do you really want to shoot at 6?
I don't want to shoot just because of people are home.
Yeah, no, I appreciate where you're
I would
coming
rather
from.
do it while people are at work, and
What are your ideas as far as what hours would you be looking for?
it would probably be like a weekend and be in the middle of the day.
So when you
and
say,
not often. It's a holiday, like we shot Memorial Day because it was a holiday. Like I said, we don't have a schedule. We don't, I'm not out there shooting every day. It's just when we feel like doing something, we get together and the guys shoot. So I mean, there's not an abundance of it. It's not like it's going to happen every week.
So
Are
would
you-
you
are
be
you-
saying I'm sorry, would you be thinking, one Saturday a month?
That's what
and-
I was, if I had to guess, I'd say maybe once a month. Maybe.
I think one of the challenges, because I hear it as well, as you know where
Right.
I live, Bob.
Yes.
I mean, I hear it as well, and I just assumed it was coming from Chatham, by the way. I know there's it shows you what I know about guns. But it's also was different than what, so maybe once people realize it's happening, then you become accustomed to it. Like,
Right.
I've heard the Chatham gun range for the longest time. It
Right, right.
doesn't bother me, and so when I heard that, it didn't really bother me, because I just assumed it was normal.
Right.
Now, when I found out it was a little bit different, then I said, okay, let's see if we can discuss it.
Are you building the berms yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Maybe you could do the test run without any conditions except for those set forth in the police recommendations.
would
That
be-
way you'll have a test run.
Yep.
Neighbors will have the opportunity to comment.
Right,
then
and
you
in
can
fact, it
pose
would be
conditions
helpful,
at the next
because.
meeting.
it
Right,
would-
and if we could-
Then we would.
If we could know when you're
experience.
when you want to go out and do it, so that we have the opportunity to go outside
Absolutely.
and experience it.
Absolutely.
And everybody does.
Oh, yeah. No, I even took it upon myself to go to the property next door to the swamp the day we were shooting. And I called my friends and said, shoot, I want to see how loud it is from over there.
If this is something that could exist harmoniously with the community, I mean, I don't think anybody would have, safely, Chief Naga and the proper authority approves it. I don't think anybody would have a problem with it,
Right.
as long as it could exist harmoniously.
All right,
And I think that's
You know, it definitely would-
that's what we need to kind of
Yeah.
test.
And it definitely wouldn't get abused, put it that way. Not like, oh, we're approved and we're going to go every week now. No.
I think you could do it by motion approving the permit on a temporary basis until the next Township Committee meeting, subject only to the conditions required by the police department. And for the next meeting, notice will be given so that neighbors
Who
are
provides
aware.
that notice? Does the township, or?
Well, that's up to
Yeah.
you all.
And if we could know,
I'd say we should, right? We
Yeah,
should-
I
we
have
should
no
provide
problem.
it. And I would,
That'd be okay, rather than you
Yeah.
have to do it.
No, absolutely.
I would move that motion.
and if we could know, if we could know when you're gonna do it, so that we could, be outside and experience it. Give us a time when you're gonna
Oh,
be
yeah.
out there.
I mean, I have no problem notifying the town every time I do it.
No, I don't, just for this time, I think it would be nice for people to have the opportunity to go outside and see how, what the noise is gonna be like.
Right. I mean, if we want to set a date and do a trial run, that's
Yeah,
fine
I
with me.
think that would be helpful.
When do we meet again? August 10th? Is that what it is? I think.
And also, no just shooting 22s and then, and leaving the big stuff.
Want the big boys, huh?
You gotta get the big stuff too.
So it would be through August 17th then?
So there's a motion made by
Brendan,
Committeeman Ray, seconded by Committeeman Lavender.
is it a voice vote? How do you do it now?
I would do a roll call, just.
Okay. Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Ray,
Yes.
Committeeman Veleza,
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bob, thank you.
well
Thank you.
presented. Thank you.
Let me grab.
Where are you going now? Oh, grab Matt? Let's have a coup. Let's lock that door. We won't let him back in.
Guy wants to be mayor again.
Now come from that door. I relinquish authority to Mayor Dorsey. Jeez.
He tried to have a coup.
I'm sure.
This would be the longest coup in history.
All right, so now we're up to ordinances. Let's see, we have ordinance 496-22, an ordinance predicting, this is the one we're tabling, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Right, but
Yes.
I'd like to explain,
That's
because it's
fine.
on to the public. while
Yeah,
we're
it's
going
for,
to
yes,
table it.
it's for the planning board that they presented to us.
Right, and I think, is the chair here still? Yep, I see him there, and Dennis, you're more than welcome to come up if you want. But the reason we're gonna table it is, we have discussed at length with Bob English, former captain of the first aid squad, the challenge that they have regarding the one facility in town, Sunrise, it's not a secret. They do about 70 calls per year there, and that's what they kind of forecast. And they do not have it's amazing that Long Hill Township, it remains a 100% volunteer first aid squad. but they cannot absorb more. They're doing about 700, 750 calls per year. About 10% of those are for the Sunrise facility up on Long Hill Road. And Jack, you and I discussed this.
Yes.
We believe it is absolutely allowed for the township to require any facility of this type, whether it's a nursing, assisted living, et cetera, to provide their own first aid
Yes.
capabilities. We cannot do it for anything that's legacied or grandfathered in, such as the property up on Long Hill Road, but we can going forward. So the reason we want to table it is where, Jack, you're going to work out some language to kind of affect what I just said.
Correct. And this ordinance was drafted primarily by Mr. Sandow, the chair of the planning board. It's not from the planning board itself, but it will have to be referred to the planning board for their consistency review in any event. And I think it's just cleaner to delay the introduction rather than introducing it tonight, then amending it and going through that process. So that would be.
And it
my-
gives the public a chance
Right.
to opine. And I don't know if anybody from the First Aid Squad is here this evening. I don't see anyone. I think it's important for somebody from the First Aid Squad to be here, at least to weigh in if they feel the need to.
So I would just move to table introduction until the August 17th meeting.
That's fine.
And that
Dennis,
could be a voice vote.
is that enough time for you to do what you need to do?
Oh, Dennis, I think's done.
Oh,
It would be
if
Jack.
we put it on for August 17th, is that enough time for the planning board to do what they need to do?
Well,
No, it
they're
would
not
go-
doing
it
anything,
would go to the
so
planning
Jack's
board
gonna
after
revise it
introduction.
first.
All right, that's fine, we're good then. Oh, wait, Dennis is,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
So he doesn't have to stay.
I'm sorry, all I got was, is that enough time?
no, I was confused. We're tabling it to August 17th, and then we'll send it back to your board.
We'll refer it to the planning board after
Oh,
introduction, as
well,
you and I discussed.
that's not a problem,
Okay,
because we've got, once we get past August, then we're down to, both boards and the committee have 2 meetings a month, starting in September, so there'll be plenty of time for the referral.
all right, that's fine. Thank you, Dennis.
A comment, if I can. I heard First Aid Squad being mentioned, and if these projects are going to be approved one way or the other, as time goes by, the First Aid Squad will have to cope with it or come up with some other alternative, but that doesn't change the land use issue.
Yes.
I mean, I understand, and I have talked with the squad myself about the fact that this will presumably impose additional load on them. But whether we have an ordinance in place before the application or whether we provide a variance when the application comes in, either way, the squad's going to be impacted. That's the reality of it. And so I would suggest that we not condition this on the squad's approval. I mean, if this...
Well, no,
we're
it's not so much, it's not the squad's approval. I mean, I'd use as an example, we have a good relationship with the folks over in Forum Park, and they've done a series of these types of facilities there. And in all of them, they have required that as conditional, one of the conditions on the approval is that the ambulance service would be provided by the facility itself. It will not be provided by the town.
There's an alternative, and that is to the extent that there are redevelopment agreements in place for these projects, the redevelopment agreement could insist on a financial contribution annually as a part of the agreement.
Yes.
And
But only one of the 2 proposed facilities is going to be a redevelopment.
it would probably be better to give the squad $10,000 a year as a donation rather than have a private ambulance service.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
You give them
manpower.
$100,000, if they have X number of volunteers, it won't matter. The contribution's not going to help. You know, they're limited by the number of folks that they can
Well, yeah,
have.
but that's an interesting excuse for not allowing any growth in town.
No,
That's-
we're not, that's not what we're saying. We're just putting that in there. It's not gonna stop this project from going forward as far as I know, or these projects.
I would be reticent about the notion of a private ambulance service being required. because that gets you into the same death spiral as a paid fire company. Why would anyone volunteer if somebody else is getting paid to do the same job? That's not an ideal solution.
But think about it, towns that don't have it, most towns do not have the number of, the luxury of Long Hill Township. They are private ambulance services that must.
We should nurture that, not compete with it.
I think what
Thank
Mr.
you.
Pizzucci is talking about is having the facility
Yeah.
contract with a private ambulance service as opposed to the township
Yes,
providing
yes.
And,
paid
and,
volunteer.
and Dennis, and we have that right now in town anyway, right, with Atlantic and Sunrise.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
Primarily contract
you're
with
right.
them.
Your call.
But we're not going to solve that tonight.
No.
Dennis, thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. All right, that's table. Moving on. Now we have the second reading for adoption, ordinance 49422, basically the meeting decorum ordinance, for lack of a better term. I open the meeting up to anybody in the public that has any questions, comments, or concerns. All right, Madam Clerk, anybody on Zoom?
It looks like there's a Marianne Noonan that would like to speak.
That's fine.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yeah, we'll get to Mr. Owens next. Just Ms. Noonan can go now.
If you could unmute yourself.
Gentlemen, should I go first?
Hang on one second. No, we got to raise the volume a second, Ms. Noonan. Hang on a second, please.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Try to test it, please, Ms. Noonan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, a little bit more, Megan, we're good. Hang on one second, I'm gonna crank it up a couple more notches, then we're good. All right, go ahead.
Okay, I have quite a few comments. I hope you will allow me some time. First of all, just in reference to what was just stipulated with regards to the squads and our volunteer squads.
Oh, no, this is.
No, this is on the decorum ordinance, it's not to do with the other thing we tabled. That, you can talk about that in September,
August.
August.
No, introductions in
Introduction,
August,
so
so public
September.
hearing will be in
Gotcha.
September.
Yeah, we're Ms. Noonan, now we're talking about the decorum ordinance, the public meeting decorum ordinance.
Okay, at the end of the meeting, can I speak, please,
Sure.
or no?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so you want to comment on the other thing, not the decorum?
I muted her.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what she said.
Okay, all right, Mr. Renowitz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Charles Renowitz, Millington. When I spoke about this ordinance on the June 8th Township Committee meeting when the Township attorney had taken ill, I spoke about one important item that was missing. It has not been added. You as a Township Committee have disrespected Tom Bear, Chief Naga, Kathy O'Leary, Linda Panetta, me, and others by talking, laughing, and ignoring the comments of these individuals. And more importantly, displayed a confrontational attitude to these speakers. Confrontational. As one of the drivers of this ordinance was the disrespect shown the attendees at that meeting by having the presentation to the audience on a mere 19-inch TV that's to my left. You, as a Township Committee, caused the frustration of the attendees. The irony of this discussion is the fact that this FirstNet presentation should have been resolved by you, the Township Committee, and its police liaisons, and not wasted 2 meetings talking about FirstNet in public. That was your responsibility. But instead, you wanted to have a presentation that no one could see. You offended the people, disrespected the attendees, and kept going. Therefore, with tonight's proposed second reading of Ordinance 494-22, I recommend that you include in the ordinance to have the Township Committee disrespectful member leave the meeting voluntarily. And if you have not left the meeting voluntarily after demonstrating disrespect, have the police department removed from the meeting. The attitude and the confrontational attitude that you presented in some cases is not acceptable. And you disrespect the taxpayers and the people that come to speak. And I've gotten up here many times, and you just continue to talk. But now you want to punish us. Look in the mirror, add this to the ordinance, and I'll be happy with that, Mr. Pigeon. I'm sure you observed the meeting when I spoke about this on June the 8th, when you had taken ill. Thank you for your time, and please add this, because the attitude you displayed and confrontational attitude in that 19-inch screen is not acceptable. It's very, very bad behavior and disrespectful for the people of this town. Thank you so much for your time and considering adding this to this meaningful ordinance. Thank you again.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Ogdens?
Pamela Ogdens, 36 The Crescent, Millington. It's not easy to stand in front of this board, and I think you all need to appreciate that. And as I see this ordinance, it saddens me. It really does, that we've gotten to that adversarial point where we are being so explicit as to say when we can approach the board. I looked at the meeting, which I feel facilitated this ordinance. There was inappropriate behavior. I didn't see it as threatening behavior, but I see this ordinance speaking like it was threatening behavior. And that really, really saddens me. I didn't think this town had gotten to that point. I do ask you to review what's already out there. The New Jersey statute 2C:33-2, which is titled Disorderly Conduct, if you haven't reviewed it to date. Also, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, their resolution 2022-7-ZB, where they address this for remote, but they also include statements about their support of open, fair, and informed decision-making process that recognizes that civil, respectful, courteous discourse and behavior are conducive to a democratic and harmonious airing of concerns and decision-making. This is a resolution already on our books. Specific to the zoning board, there was nothing to that effect in this ordinance, encouraging people to speak out and to be respectful. I have been recipient of what I saw as not totally respectful behavior by this board. I have had my comments spoken over. I have watched other citizens had the profession of their husband brought up in discussion. Mayor Dorsey, discussion of their husband's profession, which was totally, totally inappropriate and took my breath away. So I hope you will reconsider this ordinance and the message it sends out to the residents of this town who need to be heard and need to be respectful, and recess is appropriate. To go into this level of detail, it saddens me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this topic?
There's one thing, if I could talk, I mean, oh, sorry.
Yeah, when they're done, you can, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, go ahead, sir.
James Alstrom, Pleasant Plains Road in Sterling. I've lived here for about 40 years. I've been to a number of the meetings and also planning board meetings, and I agree with the previous speaker that some of the behavior is rather appalling and saddening. It seems to be, you know, a bad influence maybe from Washington, D.C. has found its way into our town, which is unfortunate. However, there's been some concern expressed that this ordinance may dampen the participation of the public, and in fact, I think it'll be the reverse. For those of us who are not politicians or good public speakers, and we attend these meetings, the confrontational nature of some of the people from the audience is very intimidating. We come here expecting to see a rational discourse focusing on the facts, and instead we get an in-your-face attitude, my way or the highway, accusations against the Township Committee that they're in cahoots with developers, criticism of a member of the Township Committee because he happens to have some expertise in environmental areas, a bunch of unfounded accusations that are frankly rather disgusting. If somebody wants to make them, they can back them up with some facts or shut up. The only problem, and therefore I think this ordinance is a step in the right direction to a more civil behavior. The only objection I have is that it has no teeth. Having somebody make a scene and then escorting them out of the building without a kick in the pants is unacceptable. It's too weak. It's what the British call weak tea. I would suggest that you add another section to this, which is the 3-strike rule. In the event that somebody is tossed out of a meeting 3 times in a 12-month period, they are thereupon banned from any more Township Committee, Planning Board meetings, etc., for a period of 12 months thereafter. And I think that would add some meat to the bones. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I would like to point out,
Wait, you can post.
yeah, I would like to point out there is a penalty section which refers to the general penalty section for violation of any ordinance, section 1.5. So.
And what is
it is
that penalty?
It can be a fine of up to $2,000, but it's set by the municipal court judge.
Understood. So it would be a financial penalty, not necessarily an appearance penalty. Is that correct, Jack?
That's correct.
All right, Brendan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah.
Assuming anybody else in the public want to say
Yes.
anything? Oh, go ahead with you gotta wait again. All right, we have somebody from the interweb.
Yes, Mark DiGiovanni, Heritage Road, Millington. The gentleman that just spoke, right, hey, if that's how you feel, that's more than understandable, that you feel there should have more teeth. But if that is the case, then the very ordinance that you are putting on has to apply as well to the committee members, not to just the public. So if there are teeth for poor action based upon the public speakers, then the same should be done on behalf of the committee itself. I think we all can agree there have been moments where the committee has not acted in good faith or in servitude for their role that they are, and I also believe at the same time there's public members who have done the same. But to continue to sit there and state that this is strictly a matter of only those public taxpayers who come here to talk should be the resultant penalty, that should be very clearly stated that it applies to the members of the committee, who, as I watch this, have people talking to them and are having sidebar conversations as someone is directing them. So I think there's just a general level of just respect, and more importantly, just concern and kindness for other people. So I want to just make that very clear. If you want to put teeth on it, then also put it that if the committee members are going to behave in a manner that's unbecoming of a committee member, they should also have the same results and repercussions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else online, Megan?
If anyone on Zoom would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. I don't see anyone, Mayor.
Brendan.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just point out something that was discussed at the last meeting. For those at home, you don't have to wait to raise your hand.
Right, and it's being broadcasted now too, so anybody can see.
Perfect, so they can raise their hand and wait their turn rather than miss their opportunity
Just like
to speak.
Brendan's been when you
Talk
interrupted him.
about waiting my turn.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't raise your hand.
Yeah.
He did.
No, I just have two things. One, I think I'd like to say the 3 minutes is unwise because it's going to be very difficult to administer and it's going to get us into more trouble than anything else. So that's one thing I would like to see removed from it. The other is that if we're going to move forward with this, and I take it we probably are, that on an annual basis that we have some instructions from the municipal attorney as to the court precedents that have taken place, so that all members are fully aware of them and briefed. Because, as I say, there are a number of issues that come along with having this ordinance, and so I would ask that be part of our January reorg.
Obviously clear if the law changes, that's what you're saying. Yeah, if the law
Or
changes,
even just as a refresher, because committee members change, and so I think it would be good, whether it's a formal discussion or it's actually maybe a brief that's prepared and distributed. But I think we should be aware of what constitutes grounds for removing people from meetings, because it's not that clear.
And we've discussed that before. It's not the ordinance itself, it's the implementation of the ordinance that we have to be careful.
Yep.
With the minutes, it says, we don't have to put it says shall be allowed 3, so it's minimum 3. And then it says to speak unless the mayor or presiding officer, extends the allotted time. So a lot of times it happens. Somebody's in the middle of a sentence, they just finish a sentence or finish their topic or whatever, and we just let them roll into it.
Yeah, I know, but the other thing, Matt, is some people, some people, whether it's what they're talking about or whether they're known to the committee members, they tend to get a lot of leeway, and then then you get into, well, I was up here and I was answering a question from the committee and I didn't get to give my full time, my full 3 minutes. It's just it's a minefield. And I think it's really up to the presiding officer to be able to control the speaker. We've all done it, right? If things are becoming repetitive, we politely can cut people off and move on. But that would be what I'd like to see here.
Yeah, time limits have been upheld by the courts, but once again, those time limits can't be arbitrarily applied to one person and not another person, and somebody can't be cut off because of the content of that person's comments.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to implementation.
So I think, it depends on the chair. For example, say you have 3 minutes and we start asking you questions. Me personally, I don't hold that against the person because we interrupted them. So I don't personally hold it against it, but I don't know, you might, or Guy might, or somebody over on the left might. So I think at least you have something here, so there's a standard like Jack said. For example, you can come up there and cut you off after a minute, where somebody else gets 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. So at least you have something here, they know what they're gonna get. So I disagree with you there, but I have no problem with being apprised on the law or updated as if things change. That's a wise thing to do.
Yes.
Anybody else on the committee have any comments? All right, seeing none, looking for a motion to approve this section, or this ordinance, 494-22.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
No.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. All right. Now we have 495-22, second reading. It's about the shade tree. Shade trees, Jack, you just want to explain real
Yes,
quick?
this ordinance does two things. One, it requires tree contractors to register with the township, and secondly, it makes those contractors liable, along with the property owners, if they fail to register before cutting down trees.
Currently, I guess I missed that part. Do tree companies have to register with the town?
They have not up until this point.
So, and I think that was one of the areas of confusion with the Shade Tree Commission. And I believe, Megan, you answered it, but who notifies you don't have to, right? An ordinance doesn't have to be notified to.
That's right. As I understand it, it's a fairly common requirement, so I think most tree contractors
Would do it as
have an
a matter of
obligation to
course.
check with town hall to see whether they have to register before they do business in town.
But
And we should make it part of the application.
But the Shade Tree Commission can reach out.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
know, and-
So, yeah, I mean, we can send notice to the contractors we're aware of.
There is a master list that the Shade Tree Commission has that they've compiled some contractors that they've come across and the ones that I've noticed on the registration forms that have come in. So there is somewhat of a master list. It's just,
And can you update that list, and do you have any
well,
issues?
after tonight, as soon as this goes into
Right.
effect, anybody that is going to do any tree work in town will have to fill out the application and pay a $25 registration fee. And if you don't do those two things, then you cannot be taking trees
Fair
down in
enough.
this town.
I guess what I'm suggesting is, I think the township, rather than the Shade Tree Commission, can compose that letter. Sorry, Megan. Jack can write it. And
Megan's capable. I'd be happy.
however
Thanks,
you want.
Jack.
I'm great at delegating. Notice I'm not the one that's doing the work here.
That's fine. I can reach out to them.
Any member of the public have any questions, comments, or concerns regarding this ordinance? Anybody online, Megan?
You're on Zoom and would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. I don't see anyone there.
All right. Any member of the committee have any concerns about this ordinance? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Lavender,
No.
Committeeman Ray,
No.
Committeeman Veleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia,
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. Let's see. Moving on to- Let's see, we have, excuse me, the consent agenda resolutions. Aside from the 2 abstentions, is there anything in here anybody wants to pull out to discuss any further?
I'm abstaining from 22-188 and 189.
Got it. Aside from that, any other issues with that? Nope, seeing none. Can I have a motion to approve resolutions 2286 through 22197?
So moved. Second.
Committeeman Lavender,
Yes.
Committeeman Ray,
Yes.
Committeeman Veleza,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia.
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey.
Yes. All right, liaison reports. Brendan, you want to start, or you want me to start on the other end?
No, no report.
All right, Guy, you're up.
None, Mr. Mayor.
Vic, anything?
Nothing to report?
Scott, you have something from rec, I'd imagine.
Yeah, you guys gave me all the work. All right, recreation. Today marks the halfway point for our camps, summer rec camp and our Little Explorers camp. I think Megan's got some pictures she's showing. Everything's been going well. We've got some pictures from this week's activity for those online. In the K through 6 camp, it's Space Week, and the kids have been having activities all to do with a space theme. So they've made aliens, and today, giant spaceships. Tomorrow, laser tag comes to camp. In the Little Explorers preschool camp, this week is Community Helpers Week. Yesterday, the Long Hill First Aid Squad visited the campers. Today, Millington Fire. And tomorrow, the Long Hill Police Department will visit. They're going to end the week with Rebel the dog visiting to show them how she keeps the community in the parks. Next, fall field hockey registration is open now through August 15th for grades 5 through 8. See the flyer on our website. This Thursday at Cantor Park on the grass field, a free concert. We're welcoming back Due South, a country pop band. 6:30 to 8:30. Bring the family, a picnic dinner, your blanket, beach chairs, and enjoy a great evening out. The flyer's on the website. The swing set damaged by the falling dead ash tree this spring at Myersville Ball Field was replaced, and the playground has opened back up. The rest of the playground will be done when the playground equipment comes in.
And then lastly, save the date. National Night Out, Canner Park, Tuesday, August 2nd, 6 to 9 p.m. That's National Night Out. That's the rec update.
Is there a concert tomorrow? Did you mention that?
I think that's the
Oh, okay.
concert. Yes, Thursday.
Thank you.
Right. Oh, wait, there's more. CAT Committee, Communication Committee. We got an email from a resident who had asked about a couple things. The video went out on the planning board meeting last night. Our folks are looking into that. There was a problem with the OBS system. This is something that we're going to build into new monitors for the courtroom, so it's something that we're aware of and we're working towards a resolution. Second thing, an inquiry came in on the website giving server timeout errors. We did pull some stats on the website over the last 2 weeks. Nothing really popped out. There was a lot of activity yesterday on the website. That might have been something that happened. The company is looking into it, but just be aware that sometimes these timeout errors can be happening on the client side, on your browser side, depending upon connection, state, your neighborhoods. But if anyone has any problem with the website, anything abnormal, when you do get through the website, leave a comment with your name and address, exactly what the symptoms were and what time it happened, and we'll report it, because we're interested in making sure that that stays up. But wait, there's more.
Busy?
You've used up your 3 minutes.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Police Liaison Report, July 13, 2022. All right, so here's the stats. Self-initiated activity and calls for service year-to-date, 10,857 calls. School activity year-to-date, 1,321. Motor vehicle stops year-to-date, 954. Motor vehicle crashes year-to-date, 91. Community policing and proactive residential radar posts, 881. Arrest incidents to date, 15. And actual subjects, adult and juvenile, arrested, 14. No major incidents, nothing to report on community policing, but some other announcements. There'll be celebrations underway for the annual Mount Carmel Carnival and Fireworks. Valley Road from Mountain Avenue to Berkeley Heights will be closed on July 16th from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. That's 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. And all residences and businesses up to the Chimney Rock Inn will be accessible on Valley Road from Mountain Avenue. Something else, I know that there's residents that have some interest in where we're at on the police radio progress there. We got a notice from Mike Peoples, who is one of the commissioners at county, progress report on the Wagner Farms radio tower. The Radio Shack, the shelter that is going to be servicing the tower, is ready to ship on August 8th. It should arrive within 10 days after it ships, so about the middle of August. Once they get the confirmed ship date, that's a major milestone in getting that tower up and going, because then they can begin, the final implementation and construction. There were some delays because of supply chain issues. That's not new news. It's happening all over the place with technology. But once that shelter arrives, and that's the thing that has the generator and the other stuff, they'll start the implementation, the installation immediately. He just reiterated it's a priority site to complete as part of their radio upgrade. He's going to give us periodic progress reports. So if Mike is listening, we really appreciate that update. I'm sure our residents do too. And that's it for the police liaison.
Scott, just on that question, was there any date given for the final implementation there? You're talking like August 18th, everything arrives?
Yeah, not that I see here. It's 6 weeks, I think I heard.
Okay, all right.
Right? That's right. I thought I heard 6 weeks, but I think I got it in a conversation. But the main thing is getting all the parts there, so they can actually start to work.
Okay.
You done now?
Is there more?
Yeah, anything else?
No, there's no more. I'm done.
All right.
Thank you.
from the DPW. Basically did a lot of work around Town Hall this week. I actually saw them out there like 6:45 yesterday, Tuesday morning, it was yesterday. They did a lot of mulch, weeding, cutting down branches and trimming the bushes. Pothole repairs are obviously still underway all over town at all times. Is there any mulch left out for the residents?
Yes.
There's still mulch. Is there enough for deliveries?
Yes.
Okay, so there's mulch left. If there are any residents need mulch, please contact the DPW. We have a new employee down there, April. I'm sure she'll be happy to meet you and hear from you. She can schedule delivery. They also did all the basin repairs for all the roads that are going to be paved this summer, which are starting at approximately August 1st. And if your road's going to be paved, you'll be notified of the paving before it happens. So that's going to start, so stay awake for that, or stay alert. For the fire department, big news. Was it Wednesday or Thursday night? I don't know, it's Wednesday into Thursday.
No,
yeah,
Thursday
there was
night.
a house fire on Morris Street down the street from me. I see Sergeant Sagowski here. She was one of the first people on the scene. Luckily, nobody was home. They figured out that real quick. Both fire companies responded. EMS was there. Our sister companies were there, and they rescued 2 cats, which was, they figured out there were 2 cats in the residence from, I guess, reaching out to neighbors or homeowners. So they rescued the 2 cats that were there. They put out the fire. The house is still up there, and more importantly, everybody involved came home safe. So great job by everybody. And I believe Sterling and Millington are getting together to talk about it sometime in the next week or so. So great job, everybody. Quick response. And best part is everybody came home safe, and everybody's good. And so are the cats. So that's it for those things.
So actually, if I could just add a little bit to that, Matt, all the first responders who were there that night, the squad showed up. We had a number of fire companies, and you mentioned the police. I'd just like to specifically commend the officers who were there that night. The Sergeant Shagalski was on scene. She actually located the source of the fire, so for the fire department. And the 2 officers who were there, Officer Place and Officer Croker, they actually breached the front door, but they weren't aware that the residents weren't. They didn't know if residents were at home, but nevertheless they breached the front door. They were beaten back by smoke, and they actually, undeterred, they then went to the back door to make entry that way. Once the fire was out, it would have been easy. They made contact with the homeowners and found out about the cats, and it would have been so easy just to say, oh yeah, the cats probably got out just because of the chaos that ensued after the fire. But all 3 made a thorough search for of all the cats, rescued 1, and they located the second cat in a pipe that led from a sump pump in the basement, in one of the furthest reaches of the basement. And so it was a really thorough search, and I certainly, I commend all the officers who were there that night for their courageous, selfless acts and their dedication to the residents. And like I say, Chief Naga, you should be rightfully proud of the officers' actions that night. They were testament to your leadership of the department. They exhibited the high values, the values and the high standards that you live by, and they are as well as your dedication to the community that you've made part of the fabric of the police department. So thanks to everyone, and I'm glad to see the representation here tonight from PD.
All right. Moving on. Now we have, let's see, for discussion items, the property maintenance code.
You forgot
Administrators.
Oh, administrator. Sorry. I'll figure it out one time. Go ahead. Scott, you want to do that one too?
I defer.
We received a report from the MUA, Municipal Utilities Authority, that we have had a 10% increase in positive recycling since we started the tag and bag program and educating residents. So that's really good. They also said that use of Recycling Coach is up dramatically, so that is also good because it provides a lot of information, especially when there's a rescheduling of recycling or garbage pickup. Our annual reassessment has started for 2022. The field inspectors carry photo IDs, and the field inspector's name and photo is on our website. So if you are in the quarter of the town where you're being inspected this year, don't let anybody into your home without the proper identification. But just know that that is going on now. A pre-construction meeting for Myersville lighting is scheduled for next week. The lights are expected to be delivered mid to late August and installed in the fall, like we had discussed earlier this year. Today, the engineer and I met with the county regarding the trail grant application that we applied for across the street. We're going to be working on getting that submitted in for August. The tiles in the front and back of the library doors are being replaced starting tomorrow. Patrons will be able to use the doors to the meeting room, which is to the right of the sliding doors, to enter the library. And if you noticed when you came in, the library was able to purchase 3 sets of tables and chairs that we discussed at the last meeting for the plaza, and people started using them already. And unfortunately, I got notified earlier this week that the Navy parachuters are not going to be able to come for National Night Out. They said that if they do find other opportunities to come out this way, they will let me know.
You should. I hope you told them they can drop in any time.
They have a choice. Is that it?
That is it.
All right. So moving on, discussion, the property maintenance. I know, Brendan, you brought this up about a month ago.
Yeah.
We were talking about it before, so Jack, do you want to fill
Yes,
us in here?
as we discussed previously, this is an attempt at having a comprehensive property maintenance code, because over the years, the township committees have intentionally not had a very strong property maintenance code. It's based in large part on the Bernardsville ordinance, which in turn is based in large part on the Mendon Borough ordinance. Now, one thing we've discussed that's not in the ordinance is cutting grass to a certain height. That was deliberately left out in Bernardsville because of the variety of properties they have. You know, it's hard to require that all grass be maintained at 5 inches if you've got 10 acres of property. You know, we may have some of that too, so it's a harder standard to write. I think we probably could add something along the lines of, you know, all lawn areas must be,
Like front yards or something?
yeah, you know, but even that, I mean, if you get somebody in the swamp with a large property, it's hard to, but,
I mean, the biggest problem is Bank of America now. I've gotten at least 4 complaints about it
yep.
in a week, and luckily Don was all over it, Huber, the code official, but it's ridiculous. It's like a Midwest out there in the middle of an amber field.
Well, what, I mean, we could certainly put it in there and then see if there are any issues trying to enforce it.
I know Long Valley's got something with the grass code.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of space, because I know part of it applies like to the, like in front of the house, but people have those big lots out in Long Valley and Tewksbury, and it doesn't apply there, so I don't know if we can
Right.
check that.
They may do it by a zone district, which some towns do. I mean, we could try to implement, what's a reasonable 6 inches, 5 inches,
I don't know. Bobby, what's reasonable?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Centimore, who cuts grass for a living.
Yeah,
5, there you go.
5 inches.
I don't.
So, other than that, if you have any other questions you'd like to, or things you'd like to add or subtract,
Brendan, anything?
No, I thought it was good.
All right.
so I will add, grass must be maintained at 5 inches, no higher than 5 inches, and we'll have it ready for introduction at the next meeting.
Yeah, and if we could just check how that other town does it,
Yeah,
just to
well, of
see,
course.
because clearly if you have a big field in the back, it doesn't bother anybody, but.
Yep, I live on the internet now,
Oh,
so.
all right, that's fine. All right. Old new business, under new business, as we discussed before, we need a code official since Alex resigned to take a new job. Alex was doing actually a fantastic job. And we need to hire a new code official, but we don't have another meeting until August. So obviously, is it all right if we have Nancy start interviewing people for that job? And then if she finds somebody or suitable for the job or wants the job, then we could hire them and then make it retroactive come our next August meeting, so at least we can get somebody working so Don can get back to being a fire code official.
Yeah, I think you should delegate to Nancy the authority to hire somebody and give her a salary range.
Yes.
And hours, if it's gonna be full-time or whatever. And then you can confirm that appointment at the next meeting.
All right, and I believe you already have like a committee of 3 or 4 people that's involved in this, do the interviews?
Yep.
All right, so it's not just you, it's a bunch of the stakeholders.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have any issue with that?
Well, to Jack's point, we have to give Nancy a salary raise.
Yeah.
Right.
Do that now or do it in,
I would do it now in public, I mean,
yeah, it's true.
you
Well,
know,
we'd
and
set,
it could be a broad, or just the cap, actually,
oh,
not more than.
all right. I think everybody be somebody full-time if we can,
Yeah, yeah.
especially if they don't need benefits and, yeah, if somebody retired, yeah, because it seems like it's a lot of work. And I believe there's a new law coming in about lead inspection for resident, what's it, multifamily or apartments?
Right,
Yeah.
it went into law a couple of weeks ago. There are no regulations adopted yet, but DCA said they're going to be putting them out soon. It's for all all rental dwellings that are not already registered with the hotel and motel registration with the state. So it pretty much is single family, 2-family, I think it's 4-family or less.
So those are all gonna have to be inspected now, whereas yesterday or 2 weeks ago, they didn't have to be. So
Correct.
all these towns are gonna have more work for their zoning officials.
Yes.
Okay. So everybody okay with at least full-time for now?
Mhm. Yep.
Left side, Vic, Scott, you okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, what do you wanna put as a cap for the salary, like not to exceed?
45?
I'm okay, yeah, I'm okay with 45-ish. Yeah, you guys have any issue with that? All right.
Like a range maybe.
Yeah, I know what the range you wanna start at, but obviously the ceilings,
How about 45 to 50?
no, I'm not going that high.
No?
No, I'd say under
I'm more
45.
comfortable with up to 45.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So is someone making the motion?
Oh, somebody make a motion to at least move forward on trying to find a property code enforcement official.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Committeeman Lavender?
Yes.
Committeeman Ray?
Yes.
Committeeman Verleza?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Paserchia?
Yes.
Mayor Dorsey?
Yes. Aside from the announcement that tomorrow we have the concert. Okay,
Oh, yeah, I've got some old business.
old business, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh, all right, sorry.
Oh, just as a follow-up from, I think, the last meeting where we talked, and it reminded me this morning when I was out walking, I had to, another near miss at my favourite crosswalk, but we talked about flags, and so I think we were all in agreement that it was a good idea to start to implement the flags as they've done in other towns, and just wondering where we are with that. I think there was some discussion about the $6,000 that it would take to fund, but as I say, it's something that is an obvious public safety issue, and just whenever we were talking about it last week, a resident emailed me whenever we were having the discussion that there was another crosswalk that she would like to have them placed at because of the dangers that are associated with crossing there.
Yeah, the last communication I saw on it, Chief Naga was going to be working with Al on the budgeting. I don't know, Nancy, if you've gotten any purchase requests yet.
No.
I mean, I think so it's only if we can find money already in a budget, or that's the only way we're going to do it. So we'd have to wait until next year to implement it for the new budget. It seems that we've been able to find money.
I don't think that was the context of the communication. I thought they found the money.
I mean, Chief Naga was the one who brought it to our attention, but it's something that's been on my mind, as I say, because I tend to walk a lot these days, and this is whether I'd hate to see it being held up just because of.
It's not being held up
budget.
because of money. I mean, we're ready to go purchase it.
Okay, so where's the money going to come from?
Well, we have the forfeiture money that might be used for that.
We had the forfeiture money, and then there was talk of using Al's traffic money, or we can use it in some of the other budgets in the police budget. And if we come up short somewhere at the end of the year, we'll make an adjustment at the end of the year, but there's no reason to hold us up for money.
I agree, but to ask that other departments that we already cut back in terms of budget to take it from their budget. We have found money for other uses out with the budget, and it seems to me that we could find the money for this, given the importance of it, without burdening department heads with having to cut their budget. Because we may not find money at the end of the year, and we had lots of discussions around budget.
We need to have the discussion. So Nancy, can you have Randy reach out to the chief and let's have that discussion? Let's just get this going.
Yep.
And again, I think the forfeiture money is probably not on the table for this.
Well, I
Yeah, I
saw
don't
the
particular
letter from
thing.
the prosecutor's office. It basically says the prosecutor has to prove all of it, the prosecutor's office. So as long as you submit an application, they might say no, but they might say yes, too. So I don't know what the prosecutor's office is going to say.
Okay, well, the one thing, and again, the one thing there is like, the prosecutor's office isn't known for speediness, and this is probably something that, as I say, is an obvious public safety item, and we seem to be saying, well, okay, we'll put it on hold because we're going to look around because certain departments have to come up with the money. And
No, I don't think we're saying that. We have to have the
but you are.
conversation to get it going. That's what we're saying here.
But it seems to be only coming from police right now, and we do find money for other things. Just last meeting, we found money that wasn't budgeted for a number of things, and it never seems to be an issue. And again, this isn't something that would be a nice to have. This is something that could potentially keep somebody out of the hospital or worse. And we're putting the burden on a department having to find the money to come from some other line item.
I don't see it
that's
that
not
way,
been
but you know
something
what
that
I'll
we've
do,
done.
Brendan? I'll have the conversation with Chief Naga, and we'll get this done, as I don't see this as a big issue,
Okay.
frankly.
All right, 'cause it's just something that I feel
I know,
important I want to
it's,
see
you
implemented.
care about it, and I know you're a big walker, and so am I.
Right.
And, I believe in this as well.
Yeah.
I just don't think that this is a big issue. This is just a matter of getting up and doing it. That's all.
What?
All right,
Right.
thank you.
Anything else under old business?
Actually, yeah, we had a presentation from the engineer at the last meeting, and he seemed to argue against camera in the pipes whenever we're doing this new project on Main Avenue. It's costing us $600,000 of our own money. It's over $1 million. I think what I remember, or the logic I took away from the engineer's engineer's presentation was, why spend the money cameraing whenever you can look into the pipes and they're going to break anyway? Following that logic, I think I would cancel all my physicals because, hey, I'm going to die anyway, so why bother doing anything to actually prevent it? The question I have for the committee is, I think when we first talked about this, the meeting before that, we had agreed, I think, although there may be some issues around that we were going to actually camera the pipes so that we would at least, if anything did happen, where we had to dig up the road, we would know in good conscience that we'd done everything we possibly could. And so the question for the committee is that something that we're committed to doing, or are we going to take the engineer's advice and shine a light down the pipe and see what we see?
Where do we leave off with that? You've been talking to the engineer. Yes, come on. When's that going to start? Do you even know?
I don't, Nancy, we know that.
Oh, like not.
The pre-construction meeting is July 25th.
Oh, okay. So you'll get more information then. All right.
Yeah, so no, I haven't talked to Mark about that since the last meeting.
Okay.
The work did get done today on Central Ave by Dorsey's. There was 4 different pieces of pipe in that section. There was clay, corrugated pipe, plastic pipe, and concrete pipe, just in that one section. So I'm sure it's like that throughout Lower Sterling. But it's ultimately your decision on how you want to move forward.
In that situation, would the cammering of the pipe made a difference, or would visual inspection be sufficient?
For some of the pipes, visual will work, but for the long stretches, the lateral stretch, the long pipes, no. No. My recommendation is at least to do lower sterling if the funds are available. That seems to be where the more settling of the pipe's been happening, but ultimately up to you. I mean, I could do some visual inspections on across the roads, but when we got long pipes running from the tracks down to Main Avenue, not going to see much.
And you think the bigger problem is obviously where it flattens out down along the bottom?
Yeah. Like I said, you got settling on Valley Road, and you got some settling now across from the hotel that just started.
Thank you. I can bring that up at the pre-construction meeting with Mark and ask him.
Yes, he watched the last, no, I guess he was at the last meeting, right. And we talked about it afterwards, and my understanding was that you, or his understanding is that you basically gave him you were trusting him in his judgment to use a combination of all of the things that he has used in his experience as an engineer to get this done in the best way he could to make sure that it is sustainable.
But
So I believe that he was going to use a combination, so the longer stretches would be a camera, the shorter stretches would DPW had cameras, and it was a combination of things.
Yeah, and my recollection is the engineer, Mark, also pointed out that they can do that inspection, and that's no guarantee that 6 months later it doesn't fail. I mean, it's the nature of the business. NJ American Water doesn't check every pipe all the time. I mean, unfortunately, infrastructure being what it is, sometimes it fails. So I would defer to the township engineer, who we pay to be an engineer, and trust his judgment.
But the only problem with that is if we don't do what's best. If we don't conduct the very best possible test, and it fails, then we've essentially wasted over $1 million.
But what he said, no, that's nonsense. We're not going to waste $1 million. The point is, what he said is, you can do the inspection. You can do the inspection, and it can still fail 6 months later.
Right. But
let's be clear what he said. He's not here to respond to this.
And the thing is, I'm not disputing that, right? But if you do the very best you can do to see if there's an issue, and it fails, okay, you can walk away, as I said, in good conscience, knowing that you've done everything you possibly can. And the issue I have here is we're spending $600,000 of taxpayer money here, and over $400,000 of money, which it's also ours, but we're getting it from various agencies. So over $1 million has been spent on something, and we are not doing the very best that we can possibly do to make sure that that road is good for the long term.
But we are deferring to what the engineer believes is the best.
Wait a second. No. What matters is getting eyeballs on it, right? And it sounds like we are doing the very best we can in the most prudent way possible. We're using the camera for the long stretches where no other method will work. Is that true?
I mean, you heard the same thing that I did. I mean, if I thought this was resolved, or I would have asked him to come back for today. I mean, like I said, I think if you rewatch the meeting, I believe that what everybody agreed on, it was going to be a combination of things, and you were leaving up to him and his discretion as our engineer to figure out what was best.
That wasn't. There was a discussion which, quite frankly, at the end of it, my head was spinning, because at some parts it was, we're going to do it, other parts it wasn't. We're going to do a combination. I had no idea. And the fact of the matter is that what is going to happen is, not that we're going to end up not doing the very best job that we possibly can to determine how these pipes are, the condition they're in, and there's therefore a much higher potential that they're going to fail, and we're going to have spent $1 million, and we're going to be digging up a road that we spent $1 million on. And it's quite simple, right? You want eyeballs on it. The best way to get eyeballs on it is camera it. That's it. If we camera it and we walk away and it fails, we've done everything we possibly can to save taxpayer money. That's what we've done.
I agree with what you're saying, but from what I understood, I mean, I agree, we should do everything we can to make sure that we don't have to, open up the roads after we spend all this money, but from what I took from the engineer's testimony, that in many cases, it doesn't help it. It doesn't make any difference. So in some cases, it does, but, I mean, it was a very confusing. I agree, my head was spinning too. But he said you could look at it, and 3 months later or 6 months later, it could fail. It helps in certain situations. It doesn't help in others.
I tell you what.
So I thought we were leaving it up to the engineer to do the cameraing where he felt it was appropriate.
Well, me, absolutely not. Because anybody who tells me that you put your head down and you look down a pipe and you can say, yeah, it's actually okay. No, put the camera down there, go along the full stretch. That way you have much more certainty. And Alex here, the expert.
Yeah, please.
So Nancy, I apologize. The meeting for the pre is July
July 25th.
July 25th. What I could do is get a crew out starting next week to do the short runs, at least in a certain section of Main Avenue, and come back to Nancy and you guys with photos
And
of
Al,
the equipment we have.
what equipment would we be
I have an
using?
old SOAR camera.
So
that
you have
actually-
a camera that can do short runs?
Yeah, I have to
So
feed it.
that's where the eyeballs are on the short runs, but you don't have a camera for the long runs?
Long distance,
And
right.
that's what the engineer said we needed the camera for?
Right. I'll go as far as I could go and maybe make it to the next catch basin. But at least we'll have an eyeball on Lower Sterling, and I'll map it out and kind of detail if there's the time frame to do it by the time the construction starts.
And your camera for the shorter runs is of sufficient quality to look at these things in the resolution that the long-run camera, what's the difference between the long-run camera and the short-run camera? The
Well,
cable?
ours is on a wheel. The
Yeah.
newer cameras are pretty much remote.
So they're like a little robot?
Correct. Ours is
The
a wheel we have to
resolution
feed
is
by
the
hand.
same picture?
Yeah, the pictures I'm going to have to send to you are going to be a photo from a cell phone onto the view
So basically
camera.
what you're doing, you're saving the town money by utilizing a resource we have that can do short runs.
Well, yeah, resources is the issue because of the work we're doing
Yeah.
and the manpower. But
All right,
we'll
that
get
was
it
what
done.
I was saying before by having eyeballs on it.
Well,
It's the
that was-
same
this is-
picture coming back on the short run as the long run.
Right, there's camera-assisted eyeballs, which this is, and then there's the eyeballs that the engineer was talking about, which was you look down the pipe and maybe you shine a light. I didn't get into that level of detail, but
That wasn't what I heard.
This is all I wanted. What we heard from the engineer was he was going to look down the pipes and maybe use cameras and others. That was what he
All
said.
right, that's not my recollection.
Right,
My
okay,
recollection is
so-
Al was going to look at the short runs.
No,
was-
I didn't
was
mention
never
that
part
last
of it.
meeting. It's something
We
that I
talked
think,
about it.
we did talk about the issue we had, but as far as moving along doing it, there was no discussion.
There was no discussion of it.
All right,
But
so we're in a good place.
I'll block out a week with 2 guys to do lower section of Sterling, and we'll map it out, and I'll forward you the information when we come back.
Yeah, for obviously the engineer.
Hopefully they'll buy the permits, and we'll be able to do it.
All right, thanks, Al. But the other thing too, because as we see, we all have different recollections of what happened last night. Some of them were, some things happened last meeting. Some happened, some didn't, but we still remember them. The one thing that I would want to see is that these long stretches, it was not left to the discretion of the engineer. The long stretches that we can't camera, the engineer cameras them. The engineer puts the camera in there.
I would agree. Let me get out there the first day and see how far we get with our reel, and maybe we will make it to the next catch basin. Maybe we won't, and I'll some stretches I might, but depending on where the catch basins are.
And you, approximately, how long do you think, let's say the professional camera people came in, they had to do the long runs, how long do you think that would take them to do, a day or so?
Day, maybe 2.
Okay, because they only had to do the long runs, that's it.
Right. Me, it's going to take just probably Lower Sterling a week with 2 guys.
All right.
And in your opinion, the cameraing definitely makes a difference as far as preventing a potential problem in the future. You could see a problem now that you wouldn't be able to see without cameraing.
Well, just for instance, today's work that was done by the contractor, there was work done in the past, because you don't go from a clay pipe to a concrete pipe to a corrugated pipe, now to a plastic pipe. So there was failures along the way. When, I'm not sure, but it's been piecemealed for how long? Now the repair is complete the right way. And it won't fail in 6 months.
All right, yeah, let us know how you do then. If we need the long runs, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Thank you, Al.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Al.
Thanks, Chief.
And there's, at the other end of the dais, whenever the liaison reports were going, Scott had several of them, so I've got one more. There's more in the old business category. I mean, last meeting, the committee voted on a study for the police, and
Brandon,
no,
hold
I'm
on.
not
No,
talking about the police study. I'm not talking about the police study. What I am going to talk about is the fire study that was used as the fire study that was used as somewhat of a justification for it. And so I just want to give some history because not everybody here was involved in it, and the circumstances that led up to the fire study. There were some issues, I'll say, between the two fire companies in town. In those bad old days, they lasted for several years. They were well documented, and they were the subject of extensive discussions between the Township Committee and the fire companies over a number of years. Finally, whenever there was really no other avenue that was seen to be left, the talking and the discussion really hadn't borne any fruit. Then it was decided to move into the fire study, and it was commissioned. And whenever we did commission that fire study, we knew exactly what the issues were. We knew exactly what we wanted to study, and that was all put out in an RFP. And so for that study, for the historical part of it here, that was a study that was only commissioned after many years and many conversations and discussions, and we knew exactly what we wanted to study and what we wanted to achieve from that. It was by no means a fishing exercise. So I'm sure others are going to talk about the police study, and so I will not say anything at this point.
Thank you. All right, anything else for old business? All right, announcements. We have the, what's it, tomorrow night, what time, 6:30, Scott?
Yes.
Down, was it due south? I think it's a Country Western Act at Cantor Park tomorrow at 6:30. Obviously, it's free to the public. The first two concerts have been very well attended, so let's keep up the good work with that. And I believe its first night's August 2nd, which is a Tuesday, at Town Hall. What time is that, 6 o'clock?
Yes.
6 o'clock, so obviously everybody's invited to that too. Last year was a huge success. Unfortunately, the skydivers aren't coming this year, but I still think it's going to be a huge success, and a lot of people enjoyed it. Any other announcements? Seeing none? All right, we open the meeting to the public now. Anybody have any questions, comments? Come on up.
Mayor, may I make a request? Mary Ann Noonan is at home. She sent me a text. She's got her hand up.
Oh, we got her.
She wanted to know if she could speak first out of order, because I guess she has no obligation.
Is Miss Noonan still there?
She is.
All right,
She's
put her
raising
on
her
there.
hand.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just make one announcement. For
Go
those
ahead.
who are not aware, a young man, Brendan Tevlin, he was the young man that was murdered several years back. The 8th annual Brendan Tevlin Lacrosse Festival will be held on August 6th at the Seton Hall Prep Field, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Brendan was I think a rising junior at the University of Richmond.
An alumnus of Seton Hall Prep.
Right, an alumnus of Seton Hall Prep, and this has become a very important event. So for those who like lacrosse and want to remember Brendan Tevlin, please attend.
All right, Miss Noonan's ready?
I want to thank you for taking me on.
That's all right, go ahead, Miss Noonan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you for taking me on. I'm currently dealing with a blood clot in my left leg. So I'm getting a little tired here. I do have a couple questions, and I'm going to make it very abbreviated. Everything's from a professional standpoint. First of all, Committeeman Lavender. Okay, could you please give me a very quick update with reference to the specifics with the Warren cell tower And specifically, are we dealing with new equipment that is being put adjacent and attached to the tower? And will this alleviate the problem with control tower communications?
That was directed at me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I will read you again what I have. So the purpose of the tower is to deal with some of the geographical peculiarities that we have in town with the hills and our terrain. And so once this tower is up, the promise is that we're going to have better coverage to get to the radios. The equipment that's going in is owned by the county. The county owns the tower.
At least they own, at least a spot on the tower. They
At
don't
least
own
the
it.
spot, right. Yeah, it's there, so we don't have ownership rights on it, but they're putting this in place for our benefit. So the equipment that they're putting in here has a generator and backup equipment and other stuff as well that they're going to have to install in order to get that operational. That's the extent of what I can tell you about it.
Okay, Fanny and Lavender, the question I do ask is, so I've been very much involved in Warren Township currently. Is this the existing cell tower that we already had a relationship with regards to the county? Or is this a new cell tower?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, can we find that answer out?
Sure, I'll write that down.
I appreciate that because they currently do. I could dig in, and probably off the top of my head, I could tell you it's probably parcel 3C, which is part of Wagner Farms. And it's a very distinct parcel that they segregated, and they're currently leasing that tower. That tower has been there for probably at least 8 to 10 years. And based on my conversations with Mayor Dorsey, my assumption was that we would be able to gain access to that cell tower, that very specific cell tower, because we had negotiations going on with the county. So the real question comes down, are we missing a piece here with reference to putting another cell tower up, or are we utilizing the existing cell tower?
Sounds like we're talking about the same tower.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure which tower it is, Miss Newton, but I can ask somebody I work with because they have information on it, and I can get it to Scott, we can get it back to you. I'm not sure if it's a new tower or an existing tower, and you, obviously, I know you're involved over there from our conversations. I just don't know where exactly it is on the Wagner property, what side of the Ryman Road it's on. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, because I could give you information, I could find it and send you a note where the existing one is.
Okay.
I know exactly the parcel, believe me. Okay, and again, I apologize, I'm a little bit in pain, and I'm just trying to be, very quick, okay? Okay, second of all, I had sent out an email as of last night. It went to every person in the room, probably with the exception of Megan. I apologize. But in essence, it is regarding, okay? I know this is a bit of a sort of subject here, but it's regarding that Echo Sentinel article regarding the police department. I sent you all a very detailed email regarding us paying $30,000 for a study. All I could say is I am confused, to say the least, as to what this is about, why we are expending this amount of money, $30,000, when I've had a couple people read it for me, and everyone is so perplexed. Is this an audit, or is this a proactive study? I don't know who vetted these people. My assumptions as I look at it, I already put in, and thank you, Megan, for responding. I have 2 Oprah requests in. I'm just very confused. So I don't want to really just hang on this and waste everyone's time. but everyone has, including Attorney Pigeon. I forwarded a copy to you as well. And my question is, will I get a response via email? Or will I need to raise these questions in the Township Committee format as such, which I prefer not to do?
Ms. Noon, I was going to call you today, but I got called into a hearing in the afternoon that took up my time. That was unexpected. So I can call you this week if you want. That's fine with me.
Mayor Dorsey, there's many questions in there.
I can answer as many as I can to you.
Okay, may I ask, has everyone read what I had sent, including Attorney Pigeon?
Mr. Pigeon just said he did.
Has everyone?
I can only answer for me, and Mr. Pigeon said yes, and he's sitting next to me. That's all I can answer to.
Yeah, Matt discussed it, yes.
So no one has had a chance to read it, is that correct?
Mary Ann, this is Guy. I hope you are okay.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? I am in receipt of your email, and I have in fact read it.
Okay, thank you very much for your response. You know me.
No, I'm not gonna, I'll defer to Matt.
I'll talk to you about it. I was going to call you today, like I said, but I got called into a hearing.
As a committee, what we try to do is to allow the mayor to respond to specific.
And that is specifically why I directed that to you, Matt.
Well, I couldn't hear what you said the second half.
I'm sorry?
I didn't hear what you said the second half of your sentence.
That's exactly why
Oh, yeah, no, you.
directed it to you, Matt.
Yeah, we've talked to you a lot over the years, so you know how things work.
Yes, and you also know that I am advocate of a lot of things, and specifically our township. I just want to make sure and bring an awareness, okay? Because I am very involved in Warren Township right now. And if you read my email, what is transpiring in Warren currently, okay? All their high-density housing is surrounding Gillette and primarily Sterling. We're going to have a major issue, and this is what I would like to discuss either more deeply, but I'll just do it very briefly, a very quick analysis. Hillcrest Avenue alone, okay? That is the only outlet for anyone in Gillette and Berkeley Heights, basically in terms of close proximity, and I'm talking the border of Berkeley Heights, to get to Route 78 and Route 22. I do not know if you realize currently, the way it stands right now, there could be potentially 562 units being built off of Hillcrest directly or within half a mile, okay? 400 of the units on Hillcrest are in Warren Township, 62 of which is our obligation. And then we have an incremental 100 units that's in the wings, as we all know, with regards to Elite. This could potentially bring us up to 562 units in this small sphere of one access road. If you multiply that simply by 3 tenants, we are talking another 1,686 people off of one road and a quarter to maybe less than half of a mile of a road. So when we're talking about a $30,000 study, I just want to make sure everyone is completely aware that everything is changing. Okay? Historical data, traffic studies. I have sent a letter to the mayor of Hillside. I've sent, and of course you don't get a response. But this is my township. This is our township. And the fact of the matter, if Hillcrest in essence will not be accessible, people will then, if we're talking about, just 462 units alone off of Hillcrest, That being the only access road, okay, we're gonna have a lot of trouble. And so I hope with regards to this police audit, or whatever it may be, and again, I am still in a quandary as to what this is about, but I truly hope that they incorporate all this information into that study. And second of all, the second part of Warren is Mountain Avenue off of Mount Bethel. That leads directly into Sterling. I could compile the data, but I know at least 200 to potentially another 400 units will be going up in Warren. And in addition to that, there is currently a lawsuit in progress for Wagner Farms for the 10-acre parcel, okay? And in essence, what they want to do is they want to put a group home on there. I do not want to go in there. Mr. Sandow spoke about the consequences in terms of, squads and everything else. But what we're dealing with in terms of that, Mountain Avenue is already flooding. Okay, they're gonna start knocking down. It's very undisturbed. It's just a farm. But that will cause more flooding to go into the Arboretum, hence the Passaic River. And Mayor Dorsey, I will ask you, because I know you were looking into things in terms of, the Passaic River, the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot right now, but has anyone approached anything with regards to dredging the Passaic River currently? Because we already have flooding behind ShopRite, and we've already had our police headquarters flooded in Sterling. And you know what? As Mr. Sandow said, in terms of the first aid squads, I'm sorry, our population is growing. And first of all, I do agree, and I heard Brendan and Mr. Sandow say the same thing. We need to allocate the funds to our first aid squads, but with this amount of people coming into our communities, yes, we have Atlantic Healthcare, but we're going to need both. And this is going to be the law of unintended consequences. And I do want to commend everyone on the committee and on the planning board. You have done a phenomenal job, okay, in terms of everything with regards to the Fair Share Housing Center and this high density. And with that, I just want to conclude. I just want everyone to really take a deep, hard look in terms of this police study. What is going to become of our fire departments, our first aid squads, our police departments? Everything being built around our surrounding areas on Hillcrest. One development on Hillcrest is residential, but we are now talking 3 to 6 story properties. We are now going to get phone calls because the other side of Hillcrest, and I'm sure it's going to pass. Okay, there's a buffer supposedly that's supposed to be in terms of Route 78. They don't even have an access road. They're going to squash their ordinance of a 50-foot buffer. And de facto, that road is going to close down to Gillette. If there's any type of emergencies, if anything, we need our first aid squads and we need our police squads more than ever. Because with these rentals coming up, and again, I am so grateful for you guys for what you have been doing to fight this. Okay, but inevitably, we don't know what's coming ahead of us. And when you start putting up any type of rental properties, there's a big distinction between home ownership. The alarms will sound if someone's cooking, if someone came in drunk. I'm just saying, I am just promoting all of our squads.
Thank you.
Okay, and the last thing I want to know is I am more than willing to help provide any information that you need for a proper study to be completed. So, de facto is when you are looking in terms of stakeholders, that was quoted. Now, the only reference that I've been able to come up with was happening to fall upon the Echo Sentinel article, okay? It's stakeholders, okay? Will there be citizens, the residents, someone like me who knows what is going on, will we be engaged? You don't have to answer me now.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get the report. I think you sent an Oprah for it, so you'll get, I don't know if you got it yet, but you'll get it, and you can review it for yourself, and like I said, I don't interfere with whatever they do.
Mayor Dorsey, you know, it's a bigger element. We're talking about expansion, like I said, just off of Hillcrest, potentially another 1,600 people.
Yeah, you told us.
Yes, I did, and also in terms of the amount of cars, the potential accidents.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Newton, I will give you a call hopefully tomorrow, excuse me, tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Mary Ann.
All right, anybody else in the public have anything they want to discuss?
Good evening. I'm Ed Naga, citizen, first of all, and commonly frequent Long Hill Township. I'm up here as a citizen, not as chief of police, due to restrictions imposed on me by your Labor Council, and I'd like to discuss an issue of public concern. There's been 2 fatalities within roughly a year apart that took place on the New Jersey Transit tracks at the border of Berkeley Heights. Has any of the committee members sought out any state officials to help with putting up a barrier to deter the pedestrians?
Oh, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
We had a major contingent of officials here for the proposed improvements to the Stirling train station, but here we have 2 deaths in less than a year, and
Well, the second death was long after the people were here for the train station.
Well, no, but I'm saying that's not what I'm saying. We've had 2 deaths. We were talked about this 3 weeks ago, and as a township, we haven't made the same level of the same level of effort here, because there were 2 people have died on our border. And there's obviously an issue, but it's something that so far has New Jersey Transit certainly doesn't seem to be taking any action about it, and I think it really is something that we should be taking action with about, especially with our elected officials. And I know that there are some deep connections to officials in Trenton on the committee, and so I would ask that another 3 weeks or a month doesn't pass by before we can do something about this.
What's the suggestion? Would you like me to reach out?
Sure, go ahead.
I have no problem with that. I'll do it right now. But I was unaware that there was fatalities, 2 fatalities in the same location.
They both came from the Berkeley Heights side, too.
Yeah, I mean, but it was on our border. It was on the border with Long Hill. There's obviously an issue. 2 fatalities, I think, in less than a year.
That's fine. Vic, you can reach out to...
I'm reaching out now.
Senator
Yep.
Bramnick, and I'll look into it, because I know he's been in contact with New Jersey Transit for us, so it's not a problem. Any other members of the public?
Pam Ogins, Millington. There's been a lot of discussion about the loss of accreditation of the police department. Having worked in healthcare for more than 4 decades, there were very consequential accreditations, and there were others that were just nice to have. So what are the ramifications of losing this accreditation? And if you can't answer, can we provide that information at the next meeting?
Yes, we can do that. Yeah, we can give you a more comprehensive answer.
And then just second quick question. We are designated as a tree city. That's accolades for getting that done. And I have to say I was perked up when the Shade Tree Commission, there was discussion about putting some additional trees on Valley Road. And I hoped that maybe they would hide the eyesore of thermoplastics.
I wish.
And that's not where they're going. About a year ago, I asked if there was anything that could be done about the thermoplastics eyesore on both sides. I have friends visit, and they joke that they were waiting for the banjos to start playing as they drove down. We have a beautiful township, and that's blighted property. Can it be condemned? Can we force the owner to do something? I would think that those buildings are a hazard in a lot of different ways. When I asked this question a year ago, I was told that there was something in the works and to just hold on. That was better than a year ago.
What you said basically echoes what everybody in town says, so.
So what can we do?
Well, it's a problem, it's a private property, and there's no zoning, there's no zoning or property code violations that we're aware of, so it is ugly, and it's just, we're trying to figure out other solutions for that, we really are, and we're actually talking about it earlier, so it just grinds slowly along, but we're trying to think other solutions we can do there. It's in that redevelopment zone. It's owned by Elite Properties, so it's their building. Now, the other two buildings next to it are owned by two different individuals, but again, I don't think there's any zoning or code violations, and unfortunately, being ugly, which we all agree on, it's unfortunately nothing we can really do about. So, as much as we can, and then the code enforcement official, Alec, when he was, before he got into a new job, he actually did go out there, I think more than once, to check out the properties, correct?
Oh, yeah, he's been in touch with them. He was in touch with them several times, and we recently got them to take the letters down, at least.
Yeah.
That was, the beautification committee asked for that, so they took the letters down. But as you say, right now, we don't really have a code enforcement officer. As soon as we hire one, if there are code violations, they'll be addressed. But when Alec was here, he had addressed them all.
Yeah, I remember there was some debris that had to be removed from one, not Thermoplex, just one of the other properties. And the problem is they own it, and they could develop it when they want to. I know they have a sign out there, I think Silbert Realty took over like a couple weeks ago trying to find a tenant to go in there, but who knows if that's gonna be fruitful or not. I hope they could find somebody yesterday. I think everybody in town does, but as of this point, there's really not much we can do legally, I don't think, right, Jack, to force them to do anything.
Not at this point, but as you said, we were discussing earlier possible options for the township to get a handle on it.
Oh, so we were discussing it
I'm sorry.
earlier tonight, so believe me, we're well on it, and if there's 10 complaints in town, 11 of them are about that, so.
And the biggest challenge for that part of town, as anybody who lives in Sterling, as the mayor does, is that it floods. And otherwise, we were very hopeful when we included that area as a redevelopment zone for it to be one of our fair share previously COA sites. We thought we would get a permit waiver there, but the DEP unfortunately did not get it. For the residential, it can be commercial, but it cannot be residential.
We talked about the condemning of the Valero gas station area, and that's in far better shape than I would think that there
Which
must
gas station area where Delta?
where Valero is.
That was
Oh, yeah.
For the redevelopment, and that didn't happen, but there were pictures shown of homes that were felt to be blighted, condemnable, that were nothing compared to thermoplastics. So I would hope that we can find something in our codes.
It is a redevelopment zone, that's what we would.
Yes, that I'm aware.
discussed over at the
3 years on the master
Yeah,
plan committee. I know
absolutely.
all about that. but I would hope that there's some code, some
To the mayor's
violation.
point, I think you've echoed what, there's 8,630 according to the
I
last
think
census.
everybody agrees.
8,630 residents
Agree
in
with you.
Wagner Township. All 8,630 agree with you. They want something done on that site.
I read the last survey that went out to residents, and I saw time and time again when we asked for input from the residents that that was specifically noted.
Yeah, we don't even need to ask at this point, we know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Nyquist.
You mind? Karen Nyquist, I live at Millington on Woodgate Lane, and I want to stress that I'm here today as a citizen. Okay, two things. Number one, the recycling problem. I went on to the app. I used it for a while. I'm very diligent. I remember the regular schedule. But whenever there was a change, I got the notice from the app the evening of the change. So it already took place. I mean, like whether it was change in recycling or whatever. So I went off the app. Fortunately, I'm with some groups on, Facebook and all, and I get notices from them, fortunately, because I don't go on the township website every week just to check for recycling. So the last fiasco was this July 4th. And fortunately, my block has never had a problem. But I think many people, on the basis of what was churning, didn't know what was going on. So has to be, I got a notice, a Facebook cling, and I think it was from Mayor I think it had your name on it. I got it out, I didn't get the thing until 7 o'clock at night, and it already had taken place. So there's something in your process of notifying or notifying the public about recycling. I do not think recycling coach is being effective. Maybe they fixed it. I should say that.
So to be fair, if I could just answer that question before you ask your second question, you can set up when you receive those notifications. I receive the notifications a week in advance. But let me rephrase that. Residents can receive those notifications a week in advance. And that's when I receive them. So I know about it well in advance, not the evening of when it happened. So, I was just
Received what a week in advance?
When there's a change in schedule. I actually notifications of garbage. Garbage is this week. Bulk is
Okay,
this
so
week.
then.
So there's a way to set it up. I was just trying to.
Playing with it.
Okay, then maybe that's all right. So then maybe it's working. So
Here it is. Here are your choices. Remind me this much in advance. 1 week, 2 days, 1 day, 12 hours, 1 hour. So you have 5 different choices. I chose 1 week.
Yeah, I know Al was very proactive because he sent me something that I posted online. I know the town put it out. It was in the town calendar too. I don't know if anybody uses that, but it definitely was. And I know it was confusing. That's why we tried to blanket as much as possible.
So it is if for whatever reason it defaulted to 1 hour for you, you missed it because the 1 hour is probably.
all right, okay. Well, what I was going to add is that somehow they figured out a way so that we get really good notices about construction on the roads and, changing, things that are happening on our township roads so that you can divert, figure out a different route, et cetera, et cetera. So the police, I'm sure they work with Public Works, somehow gets out those notices in a timely fashion. So, number one, I don't know if you should totally rely on, even if it works, the app. I think it would behoove you to look at a process whereby you can supplement in an situations of a changing schedule to notify the township of those changes in recycling and garbage. In some cases, depending on, like especially in the summer, could be a little bit of a, it could get a little difficult, a little ugly. And that's going to lead me into my second comment. I have a letter. I was going to send it to you, which I will, and I was going to actually read it here, but I'm not going to do that. It's interesting that a group which I mentioned, the police department, and also with Public Works, but the group that you're going to study because it's about its process or that it's not working the way you think it should, et cetera, is is very effective in at least one of those things that it's doing, and you're going to study it. And yet you guys, very honestly, don't have a good process for notifying the public about things like garbage and recycling. I thought I would be the only one. I was concerned. I was reading these articles, and I'm saying I may interpret it wrong, but tonight I was reassured that I'm not. I really believe that you have treated and spoken, and this includes the administrator, in such a disrespectful way to Chief Naga, and have not given him the credit or the police force the credit that they deserve and the consideration that they deserve. The fact that think about the purchasing came up, should never have gotten to the point where it's going to be put in the paper. I asked the question, I said the first thing was the problem. They said it was the person. My first thing, because of my background in operations research and process, I said I'd look at the process. What the heck is wrong with the process? But you guys didn't do that. You first jumped to he did something wrong. I mean, and I know the particulars about the requirements, the legal requirements of the order and, you know, the approvals, but very simply, you cannot tell me that in all of the time that's been around, you've been in operation, this has not happened before, and that it never rose to this level. So I'd say there's something, it said to me, it's not just that incident that's prompted that publication to come. And then I guess I have to second with the study. I do not understand how a study could be undertaken without speaking to the group and or people who are the subject of the study. And you know, you did not, and you admitted that in paper, on the paper. You admitted that in the newspaper. Now your company, so to speak, your consultant group, said they're going to involve, they listed the police department in the list of people or groups that they're going to talk. I mean, which is commendable, but like I said, I really think, I give Chief Naga a lot of credit. So I want you to really think about this. Think about the kind of environment you've created for an employee. Would you want to walk into an environment if you heard that, gee, you do this one thing and they blow you up and they put this out, and all of a sudden, because of that one thing now, and I'm going to have a big study and they don't tell you about it? Boy, do I want to work there? I wouldn't want to work there. I really would not want to work. You have forgotten one simple rule. Treat people like you would want to be treated. I really believe that, because what's been written, I'm only going by what's being written in the paper, and that is what I see in those words that are in the paper about what you have done or not done. And I am so glad, and I appreciate so much that he has chosen to not quit and stay here. And it tells me it's his dedication to the township and to our safety. And I hope you all realize that before it's too late, really. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nyquist.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to say anything, concerns? Mr. Aronowitz?
Charles Aronowitz, Millington. My question tonight is directed to the two police liaisons when we had to. It is my understanding that in the budget discussions, the police department was, in a sense, defunded. This defunding more than likely will result in the police department losing its accreditation. Question was raised tonight. What does that mean? What does that do? No one knows. But maybe the 30,000 consultant can tell us, huh? We put that on the list. How about that? At the last Township Committee meeting, we had $30,000 was found to do a study of the police department. But on the one hand, we defunded the police in the budgeting process, and now we found $30,000. But we can't find $6,000 to fund the flags for everybody's safety. Oh, it's, well, let's stop the 30,000, take 6 of it, and buy the flags, and cut back the study, or don't do the study. So I'd like an understanding of how we can defund the police, and then 2 months later, find $30,000, and we can't find $6,000. I'm confused. Please get me unconfused.
Thank you.
The question was directed at the 2 police liaisons when there were 2. I think there's only 1 now.
Correct.
Okay. But the 2 were involved at the time, so I think the 2 can answer the question about defunding, finding 30,000, can't find 6,000, and looking forward to both your responses.
Go ahead. If you want to answer, I'm answering.
So as far as the accreditation goes, Chuck, the issue wasn't funded because there wasn't manpower to perform it. We're not going to fund something that we can't do. That's number one. Number two, we already talked about the flags tonight. We haven't received a purchase order for it. Once we do, we'll find the money and we'll do it.
So, Scott,
funding of the
where are you going to get this? Where should the purchase order come from? I mean, I guess that's the.
So
that's
the last
issue.
communication I saw, and this is Chief Naga talking to Al, putting the order in. Nancy, have you received any requests to purchase? Has Randy received anything? Once he does, we move forward with that. Now, as far as the ramifications for not having the accreditation, I believe our insurance goes up. Oh, what, $7,000? Is that correct?
Approximately.
Approximately.
Is that per year?
Is that per year?
Because
I believe- I
accreditation
think
lasts for
so.
3 years, so it's a total of $21,000 then? Right?
I think it's 7,000 per year. I'd have to check. It could be over a 3-year period. I'm not sure.
We can't pay for something we don't have the people to work on. Next.
I think you answered Chuck's question.
Yeah.
Megan, anybody online?
I have
Sure.
Good evening, Frank Liberato, 589 Heritage Road, Millington. Just to pick up on your point, Committeeman Lavender, if you didn't have the manpower to complete the accreditation, if funding was put towards paying, say, overtime or additional time, whatever that quantified hours would be for people to pick it up, would it still have been possible to complete the accreditation? You know, if it was a matter of you needed 80 man-hours, for instance, to do it, or 120, could it have been funded maybe through overtime to just get it done to meet that deadline so that we didn't pick up the additional insurance costs?
Yeah, we did have that conversation of bringing in some outside help, a retired police officer to help. And that suggestion wasn't picked up
Wasn't picked up by?
by the chief.
All right, so the reason why I got up to talk was, you know, I pick up on what was said tonight about what the officers and our first responders did Saturday night at that fire. I think it goes to the testament of our first responders and to our police officers, because for them to go into a building that's on fire, they don't have turnout gear like the fire department. They could have stood outside, folded their hands, and waited for people with proper equipment. But it goes to the testament of not only the chief, the command staff, and our officers, the men and women of our department. We have a great department. And that just shows you the type of people that they are. They go above and beyond, which is a wonderful testament. And if you look over the past 3 years, different incidents that have occurred in town, the TJ Maxx incident, you know, there was a gun incident with a person with a firearm, you know, there was also a school bus crash that happened some time ago. They've always stepped up. And as long as I can remember growing in this town, we've always had a great department. And everybody, and not to put any other departments down, but other communities have always looked up to our department. Going back from this chief back when I worked under Chief Falzarano, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around spending $30,000 of our tax dollars to study something that clearly in many respects is working very well with your own words from the members here. So I wonder, and I say to myself, sitting up there and saying, all right, we're going to spend $30,000 to do a evaluation, if you will. And even looking through the emails going back and forth, you know, there's a certain level of urgency, but there was no real initial definition of what we're really looking for. But my thought process would be, before we jump and go grab a consultant, why don't you go back to some of the prior chiefs to get their thoughts? Like Bob Falzarano lives in town. He's the author of so many of the policies and procedures that are still used today. If you had concerns about the department's effectiveness or of the policies being used properly, go to him or even Chief Peoples. Go back to them, get their input, and say, hey, fellas, you know, you really worked on this and built it up. Could we pick your brain for something? And see if you had genuine concerns about things. If the department's not running, you know, the way that you want, I'm sure they could give you a lot of input. But to go to get a firm in New Hampshire to come here who's only really done, based on the information I read, one real study at the Hillside Department in 2012, policing is different in every part of the country. You have to admit that. So policing in New Hampshire and Massachusetts is not necessarily the same as the New York metro area. We all have to agree that demographics, things are different, areas are different, topography is different. So if you wanted somebody to study the department and give you a true evaluation that that's what you're looking for, and this is not really weaponized for some other reason, why wouldn't you go to some of the people that were intimately involved with the department? If you didn't want to go through the chief and the command staff, go to some of his predecessors and get their input, because you know, those are the people that kind of, you know, build things and put the manuals together, the books that they're using today, which clearly, to my mind, must be working well, because the policies and procedures are exhibited in real life when our officers knock down a door, go into a burning building in the middle of the night to see if somebody's there. There's nothing that a study is going to tell you that says, you know, these officers are, you know, going to do that. They don't have to do that, but it's in their heart. This is what they do. So I'm just really struggling with the approach here and really trying to understand, what do you guys really feel is deficient that you need this? Or is it more what Mary Ann said, that you're going to use it for future growth? If you're going to use it for future growth and to understand what the plans are in the next 5 or 10 years, that's a different story. But I'm just trying to, you know, understand what the goal is. And if it's, you know, that's really what I'm looking for, or is there no confidence in the chief and the command staff? And that's why you need to spend $30,000 to figure out how to run the department. I mean, I don't sit behind a desk, you know, I don't sit behind a desk and tell, I would not be able to tell a police chief how to run the department, nor would you guys be able to. And neither is a consultant from another state who's not familiar with our policies and procedures. So that consultant's going to come here, try to study it, figure it out, give you a report like they did for the fire department. When, you know, if you do have any kind of differences with whoever the department head is at the time, you know, work it out. But I just can't figure out, of all the chiefs we've had prior to Chief Naga, what is different about him that he's having such a level of scrutiny, and there's just not a level of teamwork between the governing body, the town hall, and the chief. We've never had, at least what I've experienced growing up in town, this kind of problem. So what sets him apart different from his predecessors that there's this required scrutiny right now? I mean, am I missing something here? I mean, that's all I'm looking for, is like, what is the driving force for the study? What do you feel is the deficiency?
It has nothing to do with any individual person. I said it on the record. I mean, Nicole wrote an article about it last week, and I'm sticking by the formal statement I gave when you were at the meeting last week, exactly why we're doing it, and that's the answer you're going to get.
I don't think that's the truth, to be honest with you. I mean, I think there's got to be more to it. There has to be more elaboration as to what we're paying for. I mean, it's a lot of money, and $30,000 may not be a lot of money to some people, but To me, that's a big chunk of our taxpayer money that could be spent. If the police, I'll put it to you this way. If that fire happened and those officers sat in the car outside and waited for the fire company to roll up, you know what? I'd say, well, I got to put myself in their shoes. But that's not the kind of officers we have. So I'm just trying to figure out what we're trying to hunt down to find that's wrong. But no one will say it.
I explained it at the last meeting, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's fine, Mayor. But I just feel there's clearly something different with this chief that's drawing all this attention and scrutiny that not a single chief before him had it.
Nothing to do with an individual person.
It has to, Mayor. There has to be
I'm not going to argue
some
with you,
issue.
Frank.
Yes, and I think every one of us here appreciate, we respect, we love the police department. They're an excellent police department as a whole. Were you trying to say like that we don't respect them, we don't appreciate them? Are you bringing to attention the obvious that they do a great job? Because we all know they do a great job,
that's my
and we
point.
respect and appreciate it. So I don't understand why you're bringing to the obvious to our attention. Like, are you trying to insinuate that we don't appreciate them, we don't love them, we don't think they do a great job?
I would
Because
tell
we
you,
certainly
Councilman
do.
Verleza, as the police liaison, I would say that, you know, you've
Because
worked
for
with
the
them
record,
intimately.
we do think they do a great job.
Exactly.
We appreciate them. They go above and beyond. I'm the son of a police officer. I am very, very.
Listen, I'm a big supporter of them. As I came up here and said, they are entitled to be recognized.
We all agree
And-
with you,
and
but
my
you're giving
point-
us a tone as if you feel as if we don't
Well,
appreciate them, and I really kind of take offense to that because we do.
Well, you know what? There's nothing to take offense to if there's nothing wrong.
There
I
is
came up
nothing
here and
wrong,
I'm
but
asking
the
a
only thing I
question.
think is wrong is the way you address that we don't appreciate them. We do appreciate them. We love you guys. We think you do a great job and you're an exceptional police department.
Then Vic, why does many of the residents have a perception that there is some kind of conflict between the head of the police department and the council?
We can't say what other residents think.
No, but I was addressing Vic's point, saying that, you know, I'm not the only person who has this view, that there clearly is some conflict here amongst the head of the department and the council, and I wanted to
That
just...
might be something that they gather from watching the meetings.
Possibly.
No?
I mean,
I
maybe
think
from the
it's kinda-
discourse that was discussed tonight about how people
And other
address
meetings,
each,
and
back and
other
forth.
meetings that we've all been to also.
I guess,
It's kind of
Vic,
obvious.
My main point tonight was real simple. It's real simple. I came up here to basically give them accolades, which is due, and I said by commissioning a $30,000 report to review a department which appears to be running well, I'm just trying to wrap my head around understanding how we arrived at that point and why we wouldn't have tried other avenues if you wanted to evaluate the department that were more cost-effective, and talk to Chief Alzarano, Chief Peoples, the prior chiefs, because those guys are instrumental in putting the whole command structure together that they follow. So why wouldn't you source somebody locally to get to whatever Mayor Dorsey is looking for, as opposed to spending this money on a consultant from another state who's really not embedded in our community here and embedded in the policing in New Jersey? That's what I was driving at.
Okay, so then, we hear you, but in other words, if someone's looking into me as a chiropractor, does it have to be another chiropractor from New Jersey? Or could it be another chiropractor from another state that knows chiropractic? I mean...
Councilman Verleza, that's apples and oranges.
I don't think it is. No, it's not.
Listen, Councilman, it's fine. We can agree to disagree.
That's right.
I think that's fair enough. I think, you know, I said what I had to say. You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to your facts. And I'm entitled to mine, and that's it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Megan, anybody online?
I apologize for coming up twice, but I'm coming up, Carrie Nyquist, live in Millington, on a totally separate matter. I know you have a liaison to the Board of Education, and I guess there are so many great things going on. I would have liked to have heard something about that in the liaison report. So that's all I want to say.
Who's the liaison, if I could ask, Karen, from
Kim.
the school board to...
Kim Case.
And have you spoken with Kim?
It's Vic and I. No. Not recently. We've been tied up in other stuff.
Well, I can tell you this, Ms. Nyquist. Al and I have been working with Dr. Mucci and Mr. Nestler and a few other people to get some, like, sustainability projects in with the school. I think that's going very well. Al's big on recycling, as you know. Mr. Knighton Nestler's right on top of it, and Dr. Mucci's like 1,000% on board. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes coming in the school year of this year with recycling and sustainability projects, which I think the kids are going to be excited for, and I know.
Yeah, we got the green money, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Al's
Yep.
excited for it.
We have an
the administration's
entrepreneurship program going on, even in, grammar school level. Have you seen what has been happening with our buildings and how they're improving in terms of what we talk about thermoplastics, and then look at our schools and what we've done.
I know you do some
I should say what the
capital
building and grounds have done,
So
I
Karen,
should
I
say.
want to support you 100%. I agree with you. I think as residents know, about nearly 2/3 of their tax dollars go to the schools. So I would love, I think we've reached out on several occasions where we would have a joint meeting together, and I think.
Or something.
That's in the work. We would love to have a joint
Yeah,
meeting.
we started shared services conversations, but they seem to have stalled.
Yeah, I know.
We're not going to solve it tonight.
No, I didn't want to bring that up. All I'm saying is, I'm not going to say it. One part that I wanted to say. You have a liaison, and I would have appreciated hearing a report or some indications of you understand or knowing what's going on in the group that you're liaising to. And I guess I was a little disappointed.
Well, one thing, the high school superintendent and a BA come in once a year and present. The school board representatives are more than welcome to come in and speak at a township committee meeting.
Oh, that's not what I'm getting at. You have liaisons. We have liaisons on a board in which I serve. And every meeting, we make a report about the group that we related to, whether it's incidental or not. And all I'm saying is that there is a very important group that has been doing an awful lot of stuff, and I would have liked to have heard it being reported at the meeting.
I think
We'll work on that,
That's all.
for sure.
Thank you, Karen.
Good evening. Joseph Bartolotta, 263 Union Street, 63-year resident of Passaic Township / Long Hill Township. I hear everybody up on the committee praising the chief and the police department, but yet you commission a $30,000 study. It makes no sense. You're in one breath saying they're doing such a great job, but yet you're commissioning a study. And I've been involved in a lot of things in this township, and this department has always been professional. It was the first department in the state of New Jersey to be accredited, I believe in 1985 or 86. Under this leadership, the morale and everything, I see nothing but very goodness, very professional officers, as in the past with the past chiefs. And again, going back to my original statement a minute ago, you're up here praising the chief and the members of the department, but yet you commissioned a $30,000 study to study them. Something's personal here. And that's the way it is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Anybody online, Megan?
Yes, there's Mark DiGiovanni that has his hand raised.
Go ahead. Mr. Giovanni, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
All right, go ahead.
Yep. And to be honest with you, most everyone has shared some kind of component of what I want to discuss, so I'm actually going to throw that out. What I hope is understood, and I can understand some of the frustration, right? Everyone that has come up tonight has issued some kind of statement around confusion, not understanding, not really seeing the big picture, that the committee so adamantly states that they've got a great reason behind everything. And what that says to me, and again, may not be intentional, but you are not doing a good job of stating to us, the taxpayers, the reasons why. Right? There are a lot of vagaries to things. There are a lot of different components that are saying, well, this is the way that we're going to do it. And certainly you have your right to say that, but I don't think that lends itself to good leadership. More importantly, people, influencing people to see things your way. Now, to this point around, the police, and I'll give you exacts, the reason why people are confused, so maybe this will help a little bit, right? is, to Vic's point, no one's saying that you guys don't respect the police. What we're saying is that your actions do not line up to that statement, right? I've stood before this committee multiple times, right? My goal and my hope is that you guys advocate for us. I don't want to be an adversary to you. I'm hoping, though, that by sharing this, you'll start to see that what you do versus what you're saying are two different things, and it's confusion, whether it's intentional or not, right? For example, our communication system for 10 years, no matter what anybody tells or says otherwise, has been unreliable. Policemen were not able to receive radio communications inside of buildings. Areas within the town were not receiving coverage. And so, we talk about that, we bring it up, right? We say, hey, this service agreement that we have between Morris County and us, it's laughable. It's basically an as-is service, right? And we've got real problems. So there's not a lot of changes that have been made. Things have gotten worse. I asked this committee at one point, do we do a regular audit of our service agreements? And Mayor Dorsey, you said, yes, we do. Yet I asked Mr. Pigeon, had he ever even seen the service contract? And he stated no. And we actually just got back into it. And I understand why we did. But you need to understand that the things that are being said and the things that are being done do not align, right? When I ask why are we going into this agreement, it's saying, well, everybody else has to sign the same agreement, right? Hey, let's insert the, if everyone jumps off a bridge, proverbial saying, right? So now we have this issue with this last year, and Councilman Lavender, you just brought up the fact that the reason we're not being accredited is because of manpower issues. Well, since 2001 till now, we have had enough manpower, okay? There have been requests made for positions that have either retired or moved on to be made, yet we haven't. So this idea that we have manpower because it's just the way it is not true. It's because this committee has not taken on the ability and assigned and given budget to sign and bring in new police officers. So that's one thing, okay? So I want to make certain that's very clear. And the last thing here, right, is now you're saying that, okay, we're not going to spend this, but the whole idea of doing the accreditation is a couple things. One, it helps the agencies from an operational standpoint to set the right professional standards, which require, and I state from their actual site, comprehensive and uniform written directives. They clearly define authority, performance, and responsibilities. They have reports and analysis to make fact-based and informed management decisions, preparedness to address different scenarios, community relationship, independent review by other subject matter experts. So all those things that the accreditation provides actually is a cheaper way to get the same probable outcome that we're going to get from this consulting agency, right? So those are some of the things that, again, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. Now,
Mark,
Mayor Dorsey said,
Mark, this is Guy, if I could, and by the way,
no,
thank you.
let me finish.
All right, because I wanted to address a couple of things,
You can address when I'm completed with my statement. And so the idea is that, this is where I empathize, right? Mayor Dorsey said it. No one on this committee knows how to run a police department. I get that, right? But yet you're saying you know how to make the decision to choose who should evaluate it. Doesn't make any sense. And what really reeks, and this is where I'm saying, optically speaking, you have not discussed this with our own police chief. Now, I'm telling you, no matter how you try and spin it, it looks awful. It looks as if there's an adversarial relationship here, and clearly there is. Okay? Now, we get to the other component where we now have this other ordinance with regard to public meetings. What is beginning to become aware, and whether you like it or not, is that it seems like the members of this committee are using this platform to either restrict or eliminate personalities that you guys do not agree with, or cut them out because you want to do things a certain way. And I'm telling you, it's not a good look, and that adversarial component is not what this committee was built to do. You were meant to advocate for us, work. And I know you guys want to do that, but it is not being executed this way. That is very simple, and every person that spoke tonight stated that in some way, shape, or form. So I'm hoping we can fix that. I really don't want to hear a response to my statements tonight, because they're going to fall on deaf ears. I've heard, Guy, you've told us that this town is debt-free. No, we are not. We have issued debt instruments. We have debt. You guys try and state political ways to phrase things to make it look good, and it's not the case.
What debt do we have? No, I apologize, Mark. You're making statements, but you don't want a response. You just said we are not debt-free. What debt instruments do
Yes.
we have?
When we've had that conversation with the individual.
No, I asked you a direct question. What
$2 million
debt
in
instruments
debt
do we have?
$2 million in debt instruments is what he stated. Tell me that's incorrect. We can
I'm
go back to
sorry,
the actual
say
video.
that again?
We can go back, if you want to find out the answer to exactly what he said, go and watch the video from the information that he shared before, and I spoke to him afterwards. And I said,
To whom?
we have $2 million. I don't remember his name. We had this conversation maybe 3 or 4 meetings ago. You may not have been there. Everybody else there knows who we were talking
I
about.
stand
We
by
were
what I
talking
said.
about
The Echo Sentinel's here. I have said we are debt-free. I stand by that. Please print that in the newspaper.
Yeah, that's not no, it's not correct. Don't.
You know what, Mark? I honestly don't need finance advice from you. So thank you.
Again, this is back to the point that we brought before about the lack of respect and the lack of communication and the lack of accountability. So
Doesn't that go both
that's
ways?
that guy. I said nothing to the point, and I gave every one of you the proper respect in my statement. I said
Well, what you
nothing.
said was inaccurate.
Sit there and insinuate or make you state anything else. So we'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Anybody else online, Megan?
If anybody online would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand.
See anybody?
Do not, Mayor.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to dismiss. A motion to adjourn, sorry.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.